What's up, fellas? Hi, Nans. Oh, you're all
Hey.
muted. Unmute yourselves. We have a friend of the channel in tonight. McCurdy, do the honors, please. Here, I'll unmute you. I don't know why they're not unmuting themselves.
I clicked it too.
We're all
okay,
clicking
there
it.
we go. All right, no,
Everyone's clicking
I'm
it.
normally so I'm not at my house. Normally, I have another screen, and so I can't. I'm like I don't have. I'm on a laptop, so I don't have as much to go off of. So everybody, this is Kevra.
That's me. I'm Kevra. Hey.
Friend of the channel.
Friend of our channel. Kevin does a lot of videos on Super Mario Brothers, Nintendo. Currently working on your own series. Tell us a little about it.
Yeah, so I've got 2 channels. One I launched about 1.5 years ago, mostly to talk about Mario Party as a series and getting DLC for their newest game. And I also talked about a little bit of Nintendo stuff here and there, a couple of Zelda videos, a couple of directs and stuff like that. That one's called Kevra's Vault. But last week, I just launched a channel called How to Adapt The Legend of Zelda, a new series basically about... Yeah, Charlie's been waiting on it forever. I've been talking about doing it for about 5 years, and I've been working on it like on and off. But yeah, the first video launched last week. The second video launched a few days ago. The third one should be launching sometime this week, and it's like 17 videos long. So if you guys are interested in checking out either of those, again, the first one is Kevra's Vault. The other one is just called Kevra. Type in How to Adapt The Legend of Zelda. You should find that second channel pretty easily.
I'm going to just go ahead and I'm just going to sub those on the ranked channel. So if you just go to our subscriptions on our main page, you'll find these. Now we just need it. Okay. How to Adapt Legend of Zelda Kevra should do it.
Hopefully. If not, we got a really big search problem. Like they can't even find me when all those words are connected.
Yeah. Okay. So they're both now forever on the ranked page. So there you go, dude.
Appreciate it.
Kevin's got all sorts of cool stuff. He's got this little.
That's awesome.
This little thing.
He's got a better background than all of us. So
yeah, it's all Nintendo.
Yeah.
Well, but it was set up by Ryan McCurdy, so I really need
you set this up. You don't put them either. I
don't do good with angles and lighting. Like...
Go off camera if you're gonna start making out. Anyway, what's up, Nans?
Not much.
I've been in Georgia. I just got back. So, like, fair warning. I just got back from a 10-hour trip coming back up from Georgia. I've been completely unplugged for the whole week, and I haven't eaten any food in hours. And I'm drinking Evan Williams. So
all I've been doing since Thursday has been eating, drinking, and off-roading. So
that wasn't a rental, right? That was your buddy's.
No, that's Drew's Polaris RZR.
Fantastic.
It's awesome.
Cool. Well, I'm glad we all had a little spring break action. Managed to catch this movie down in Take a Damn Shot. Okay, Huevos. I mean, that's what I'm doing. Oh, which, by the way,
I was lucky and caught it Wednesday. It happened to come out.
I'm drinking
early?
Peach Vibe Celsius. Peaches, 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 peaches. SB likes my red shirt too, so that's cool. I mean, we try. We don't I don't have the costume power that McCurdy has, but I can at least follow a color palette. Look, I have green and red. So
I was going for a blue shell.
Didn't even think.
Blue shell with what you're wearing.
Blue shell. Sure.
Yeah. Okay.
It's like a bluish gray.
Okay. All right. Well, so far, I mean, we're hanging out with Huevos. Okay. Again, being completely late to the party. I don't even know if these are still our members, but we're going to put up the crawl just as usual, say thanks. I don't know. Nance, pick somebody.
Oh, I feel like I always say the same person. Zach Casey. Do we ever say Zach Casey?
Zach. Mr. Casey.
Zach Casey.
Someday this will be up to date.
Yeah, we can't toast without
water. Toast with water.
All of them.
I just do it.
Okay, well, we'll need those beers.
In Mario, water gives you more health, right?
Give me a second.
If you swim to the top. So, okay, so as of right now, SB has seen it. Nico keeps talking about it being a really big opening. Nico,
that means it's the best movie.
And then Huevos.
Try to remember, we don't speak for
said
the
something.
fans. We don't speak for the fans.
We have been informed in a strongly worded comment that we do not speak for the fans. And yeah, for the record, I've played every video game in history. Not really. That's extreme hyperbole. But, you know, I grew up playing all these
played
games.
all of these.
But now we're here to talk about the movie. So, should we wait on Mr. Kevra, or
we just had to grab our beers because we forgot.
Important.
We're like, I need a beer. You can't toast with water. It doesn't work.
All
right. Well, we already toasted to Mr. KC3, but we might as well just, I don't know, since you guys got beer, just to Mario, to the Mario universe. But now this is where I take off my mask and reveal myself as the bad guy. I'm going to go right into it. So let me turn off that crawl, though, real quick. And I did see this with my nephew, and he adored it. But, he's 9. Of course he would. It's colorful and fun. Anyway, all right. The Super Mario Brothers movie is joyous for those of us who grew up playing Mario games. The music, the colorful worlds and characters, all brought to you by the original creator, Shigeru Miyamoto. It's a funny movie, and kids are sure to love it, but it's not great. In fact, it falls a little flat. Mostly because the Mario world has always been fueled by imagination and gameplay, not meaningful story. This ain't Final Fantasy or Halo. There isn't much to work with in the story department worthy of an entire film, especially because Mario's sole motivation has always been to get the girl. Apparently, you can't do that today, so what's left? Rope in as many different games as possible into a loose plot. Mario, Mario Kart, Smash Bros, Donkey Kong. All of those are fun games to play, but here are just fancy cutscenes of a video game I'd rather be playing. Everyone's motivation is loose, and there's no character arc for anybody, so there's no purpose, no punch, nothing that elevates this outing from a video game to a movie. It's more akin to watching someone else play your favorite video games on Twitch. In fact, the storyline is the same as Super Mario Odyssey, arguably the best Mario game ever made, and frankly, I'd rather just play that instead. So, fun movie, but after kind of digesting it overnight, I was like, I don't know. Mostly that ending was just
Are you saying you enjoyed it while you were watching it?
And I laughed a couple times and sitting there with my nephew. I wasn't gonna poo-poo it for my nephew, but I later, after he went to bed, I saw it with him and his dad, and I was like, so that movie didn't really punch, did it? And he was like, no. And we both grew up with the games. We both love the games. But for me, and this is something that, Kevra, we have with your Zelda videos, something that I mentioned to you in a text. I was like, I look forward to what you have to say about how those can be adapted. But the major challenge is, how do you elevate it to a point where I go, oh, no, this is a great movie. Forget about the video game. For me, I'm sitting there being like, this is just Super Mario Odyssey. I'd rather just play Super Mario Odyssey because these games are about stomping things and the imaginative gameplay and all that. I mean, Odyssey is one of the most fun games ever made. I adore that game. I do think it's the best Mario game ever made. But this movie just didn't transcend the video game-ness, and it was a celebration of Mario, but it didn't have those movie elements that for me were like, I want to watch it again and again. So anyway, moving over to McCurdy, what you got for us, dude?
I'm leaving. I disagree completely.
You better come back with a shirt on this time. And I'm
no, I Charlie, I would actually say, I would venture to say that's I'm in the same ballpark as you as far as the movie goes, because I went with my kids, and I didn't ruin it for my kids, but I think once we get into it, I think we'll find ourselves kind of in a similar area of agreement with this film.
I'm shocked, but do proceed.
Well, I think it makes a lot of sense what you're saying. So
okay,
and I'll elaborate once we get there. Okay, so let's talk about the Super Mario Brothers movie, or just Super Mario Brothers, or why do we need to say it's the movie? Why can't we just call it Super Mario Brothers?
Bros? Is it
bros?
Brothers?
Is it brothers?
I don't know. I said brothers. Ethan Toy says a 90-minute commercial.
I'm assuming it's brothers. Like it's supposed to be brothers because there's a little dot.
Blastoise.
Yeah,
Like,
but it's always been abbreviated that way. All right, so let's start. Let's get this over with. Okay, so history of Mario. I hate.
Please
both of
God,
you.
let it end.
Mario was created by a video game designer. Wait for it. Shigeru Miyamoto.
Shigeru,
You're like, you get it wrong.
Shigeru
I'm sorry,
Miyamoto.
Japanese is not my first language.
One more time,
didn't get
Nance.
it
One more
right.
time. One more time.
Shigeru
Shigeru?
Miyamoto.
How would you say it?
I mean, I say
Shigeru Miyamoto.
Shigeru Miyamoto.
Like
I should
all
just do it.
praise be to Shigeru Miyamoto. All praise.
Yeah, all right. So so Mario was created for the 1981 game Donkey Kong, which was originally intended to be a Popeye the Sailor game, which I did not know. Bluto would have been Donkey Kong, Mario would have been Popeye, and of course Olive Oil would have been Paulina or Lady. Nintendo could not secure the licensing rights for the game, so because of this, the game became what is known today as Donkey Kong. There's probably more to that than just that. But Mario had many names prior to his initial name. He was first referred to as Mr. Video, and the idea was being that he would make appearances in multiple games, which he did in many Nintendo games, including Wrecking Crew, which is that character Spike that's in the beginning of the movie. That character comes from Wrecking Crew, and you guys probably remember all those NES. Like you had like golf and all those games. Like the idea was that Mario was that character doing all those things in those games. It's kind of the same design. And then, of course, you have in Donkey Kong, he was referred to as Jumpman. Now, let me paraphrase this story as much as I can, but basically, Mario got his name from Nintendo of America's landlord, Mario Segale. Now, Segale had demanded the rent for the warehouse during the development of Donkey Kong.
Give me rent.
I guess they weren't paying, so they eventually paid. But then, in honor of him, they changed his Jumpman's name to Mario, and so that the name stuck ever since. Segale actually had passed away in 2018. However, Mario would end up getting his own title, Mario Brothers, in '83, and then Super Mario Brothers, which we probably have all played multiple times, in '85. And then, of course, the rest is history. And I could just look at Kevin's room, and you'd see all these great Mario things around the room.
They just keep coming, those Mario games.
And then next up, we cannot forget of course, we're all probably aware of this lovely movie from 1993, the poorly received live-action Super Mario Brothers movie. And it had its host of own problems and behind-the-scenes drama, but the film was the single reason Nintendo was very hesitant to licensing any of their characters for any other studio. However, did you know that there was an anime of Super Mario Brothers that runs about roughly 60 minutes? It was titled Super Mario Brothers: The Great Mission to Rescue Princess Peach, and it was produced in 1986. It was even released in theaters in Japan, and you can find fan remasters of this here on YouTube. And I started watching it, and I'm like, this is a lot like the movie I just felt like I watched. So I feel like Miyamoto was a huge fan of that, and he's like, we need to do that again, but in this version.
Yeah, but you can't rescue Peach. She don't need nobody to rescue her, okay? She can do it all herself, okay? I don't want to hear that again, McCurdy. Okay, wait. Before you move on, though,
sure.
The live-action Mario Brothers movie, I've never seen it.
I can't say that
you guys have seen it. Is it a so bad it's good movie? Are there any redeeming qualities?
What do you think?
I mean, here's the thing. It's a terrible Mario Brothers movie. It is not good, as a Mario Brothers movie. As if you take out that element, it's okay.
Yoshi's in it, right?
Yoshi's in it, and he looks like a real little dinosaur. Dude.
Yeah,
he kind of looks like a small kind of velociraptor kind of a situation. So it's I don't know. It looks weird.
There's elements from the games, like those first four Mario games that have been out up until that point in the game or in the movie. But and it's similar to this where they're plumbers, and then they're in Brooklyn, and then they end up in some kind of pipe, and they end up in another world. It's very similar to that, but I think that movie was a little more influenced by Super Mario World, being with dinosaurs and everything. but it's okay. Like I don't completely hate it, but it's not the best movie in the world by any means. So
clearly, because it scared them, it scared Nintendo shitless, and scared them away from any kind of adaptation for how many 40 years? Is there anything
30,
else?
30 years.
30 years. 93. So yeah, it's been 30 years.
Yeah. So and again, it all kind of goes back to what I was saying before, where how do you adapt these stories? And this was like, obviously this deserves merit next to this weird, abominable piece of shit. You know, this this odd live action thing they did. But even and we can talk about this tonight for sure after we get through all the Mario stuff and down a shit ton more whiskey. But Kevra, if you want to stick around and keep talking about, Zelda ideas and stuff like that, one of your main ideas in your intro video is, well, do you do animated or do you do live action? And that's a major discussion to have, because for me, my whole thing is like, well, if you're going to do animated, why not just make another video game? Like why, so you have to kind of elevate the story. And it's obviously that was the challenge they faced. And it's like, it's good and bad. But at the end of the day, I'm sitting there, especially with the, well, I won't get into it, but the main motivation of the bad guy is like, this is just Mario Odyssey. So,
well, I wanted to ask you, since you have seen the live action version, did you feel like when you were watching the animated version, there was like a lot of like that version like in it as well? Because when they go back to Brooklyn at the end, I'm like, okay, this is basically the same kind of thing as a like the climax of.
There's more. There's I think the new movie, like there's like, I mean, there's just like that subtle hint of it, but I think this new movie is so much more ingrained in like all of Mario that it doesn't really, like, it just doesn't register to me. I'm like, yeah, it's, this movie happens, but like I just don't really register the movie at all when I'm watching the movie. I'm more, I think there's so much more of like the games in the new movie that you're like, oh yeah, this is the movie that really liked all of the Nintendo stuff. And there's been so much more Mario since this movie to come out. So, or since,
is Miyamoto on that box? Is he listed in the credits? Did he?
I'm looking right now.
Because he is a producer on this movie. I know I'm getting ahead.
Yeah.
Well, no, we already talked about him. He's a producer on this.
Yeah,
so
he's a producer on this movie.
Directly attached, which, I wonder if that was his idea or not. I wonder if he was game for this, or if Nintendo was like, it's not happening unless you attach the man.
Let's move to our next slide then.
It's only the games that matter. So I'm hoping there's not too much like referential stuff to the earlier movies. So I would think they wouldn't do it if they hated the other movies.
Let's just move on to the
Illumination.
So Miyamoto met with Chris Melandri. He's the founder of Universal's Illumination, best known for Despicable Me and Minions films, among others. That was back in 2016, where they started to talk about, potentially making Nintendo projects. And then began to work on the film in 2018. That's when I believe they started announcing this movie. But you, Kevin, you told me that like there was a time when like Sony apparently wanted to make a Mario movie.
Yeah, that was in the leak that happened.
Yeah,
with the whole like Marvel thing. I mean, there's the giant geek leak, but I feel like the main thing that people took out of that was Spider-Man was originally going to be in the Avengers stuff. So around whatever time period that was, apparently they had talked to Sony about doing, I think, a Super Mario movie, or at the very least, like some sort of Nintendo project, since they have Sony Pictures, which would have been seems so weird considering Sony does PlayStation.
Yeah, I don't think, and I think what I did kind of read that, but I think part of it was like they weren't going to do it because of obviously their parent company was not going to allow like another property to come in and be like, oh, we're going to make this property and make Nintendo a bunch of money when they're our competitors.
Yeah,
I think that didn't make any sense.
And I wonder how it works with like the theme park that is being built for Super Mario.
Yeah, that's a Universal. It's under Universal still.
Yeah,
so
but I wonder if it all happened as like a big contract, like.
And I didn't see anything specific about it, but yeah, like there's probably like, oh yeah, we're gonna put it in our parks, and then you guys we're gonna make a movie, and we'll probably make a ton of money off of it, which they already have. So it all made kind of sense.
Real quick, Huevos keeps bringing up Air.
I want to see that.
Just leave us a comment if we should also see Air, because if it's good, I'm down. Because our list is lacking real movies. I'll just put it that way. So anyway, please continue, sir.
All right, let's move on to the directors. We've got Aaron Horvath and Michael Jelznick. This is actually their second animated feature. The first was Teen Titans Go, the movies in 2018. The two had worked in multiple capacities on animated project. I think one of them also did. Remember Drawn Together, like back in the day with like all those characters.
Dude,
one of them had worked on that.
The Trainable.
Yeah,
like we quoted the shit out of that show back in the day.
Yeah.
Which one? Which
one
one
of
was
them
on
had
that?
worked? I think Michael had worked on that because I think Aaron hadn't done as much. But I think
he looks like he would be the guy.
Yeah.
On Drawn Together. Okay.
But he had worked on Drawn Together. They had stated that Nintendo was heavily involved in every aspect of this film. So it kind of again goes into what we were talking about. They wanted to instill the idea of the players never giving up in the character of Mario, which we see in the film. Dying and then replaying the level till it's completed, which I think we've all experienced at one point in time. I didn't write this down, but Charlie, I know you were going to keep, harping on this whole point about not saving Peach. I think they had even quoted, they were like, yeah, we could have done that, but I felt like that had been played out and they didn't want to repeat. So they wanted to do something different. And I know you're going to have your own.
Peach is a playable character in every
she
Mario
is. Yeah.
game.
Yeah. But the fact that it's like
doing her thing, but as a story element,
yeah,
we'll get into how my whole view on it is not surprisingly the same with Bond, where it's like, why do you need James Bond if everybody can hold their own?
Yeah.
Why do you need the hero? And if the movie is about James Bond, or the movie is literally titled the Super Mario Brothers movie, why the fuck do you need him? So
yeah, and if it's brothers, it also makes I see where you're going with that.
They're redundant.
My wheels are already turning, and I'm like, I see where you're going with that.
Yeah, there's a lot more to be said. So continue.
Zelda movie. You're Zelda movie man.
Zelda movie man.
Zelda movie man. What does he say?
Yeah, change your name now. You're now Zelda movie man.
I hope it affects. He's saying his hopes it affects video game movies.
I agree. I hope this makes a shit ton of money, so they. Why not?
It has, right? Apparently, it's like the biggest.
It's already made. So the budget for this was
the
budget for this was $100 million, and based off of their projections, the movie should make about $140 million. Now, it's not. It's not the biggest Easter release, but like that is still like you're still making most of your budget back within the first week release. So this movie's they're gonna make a sequel.
Oh yeah,
movie is currently at $377 million. That's more than the Sonic movie, of course. More than Sonic, and almost as much as Warcraft, which is the highest-grossing video game of all time. Video game movie of all time. Yeah,
that kind of recent one.
I think the things that I saw was 140 was like probably domestic. I don't know if it was worldwide though.
And this was obvious. I mean, we talked about it beforehand. We're like, the movie's going to make a shit ton of money. It's a Mario Brothers movie that looks and feels and is very colorful, and like kids are gonna love this. Again, I saw
they nailed the look. They nailed the look.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's not a shocker at all, but. For me, sitting there watching, I'm like, well, the story kind of lags, but the kids are like, I don't care. The blue shell went boom, whatever.
And then a lot of Mario fans are like that too, because I mean, I've seen so many people like on the internet praising this movie just because there's just so many Mario moments like for Mario fans that just like make them smile and like give them that warm fuzzy feeling.
Yeah, but nobody wants to poo-poo it because they love it so much, and that's where I'm like, look, I'm just a guy who calls it as I see it. I of course wish this movie was phenomenal, but it's I already went through why I think it fell flat, and we'll go into that a lot deeper. But I wish it was incredibly meaningful, and it could have been with some tweaks, but most people don't like, especially right after release. I'm the guy who had a girlfriend who I made her depressed because I talked so much shit about Batman v Superman. She was like, I just can't say a bad word about Batman. I just love him. And I'm like, I know you do, but you must face the truth, and I think I drove that one away.
That's pretty dark. All right, so let me get through a couple of the voice actors really quick so we can breeze through this. And
I love these. Of course,
we'll start talking about.
They were excellent choices.
I don't need to say who these guys are. You know Chris Pratt, you know Charlie Day.
Yes.
You know, one is now, you know, a mega star with Guardians of the Galaxy and Jurassic World. He has another movie coming out in a couple months with Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. And then, of course, you know, Charlie Day, best known for It's Always Sunny, and he's been in a bunch of other movies.
If you haven't seen
I
It's
thought this
Always
was an
Sunny,
interesting
you
fact.
Have to required
Yeah.
viewing. You must.
Yeah, I think this is an interesting fact, is that they were both in the Lego movie, because Chris Pratt played the main character in that movie. And then, you know, Charlie Day kind of played a similar character in the Benny the Astronaut character. So it made me wonder, I'm like, okay, you know, a lot of people were upset that, you know, they got Chris Pratt to play this and they didn't get Charles Martinet to play the character. But I think you had a good point of why, because you and I have talked about this, why they would have cast Charles, or why they would have gotten Chris Pratt instead of bringing back Charles Martinet, right?
I think, isn't it Martinet? Just
yeah, I think it's Martinet.
Martinet.
Yeah.
I've seen somebody said Martinet, so
okay.
I would say both, because I can't never remember which.
Yeah,
it is.
but anyway,
Okay.
You told me one
But
reason why they would have done that.
But guys,
yeah, I mean, then
there's no need to even answer that question, because the movie answered that question right away. And that was one of the things that I absolutely loved, was that everybody had their opinions on the casting and how could you do this to Charles. But the movie itself addressed that right away. Right off the bat, the first thing you watch is a Super Mario Brothers the plumbing company commercial, where Chris Pratt and Charlie Day, they had them do an impression of Charles Martinet of the video game version of Mario, where both these two guys are going, "Hello, it's me, I'm a Mario, and I am a fix your sink." And then Luigi comes in, "I'm a fix your sink too, and we are better." And what they're showcasing is, imagine that's a 30-second commercial. Imagine a 90-minute movie. You'd go fucking nuts if you had to listen to that the whole time. So
do you think that was always there, or did they add it once they heard?
I want to know.
No, I think that was their creatively. I think that was the decision, because I think, I think, and also you got to realize that, like, Charles Martinet, he only has snippets, and of course he's just doing it to add a little bit of flavor as you're playing the game, versus Chris Pratt has to put on a performance where he's got to be like
this and a hello. You know. You would go out of your mind. So and so not only did they address it right away, and I thought that was brilliant. I loved that part.
Yeah.
The first thing you see is it's the Mario Brothers watching that commercial on a TV in a pizza parlor, and then a friend of theirs is playing a video game right there, right next to them, and he turns around, he says whatever he says. He's like, "It's a great commercial." That's Charles Martinet. That was his voice. So right away they were just like, let's give props to the voice of Mario. Let's respect it. But then let's remember that this is a 90-minute movie, and it can't be that obnoxious voice, because as McCurdy said, it's like if you made a in the Zelda movie, if Link was only ever like, "Hi, you'd be like, fuck this is terrible. For a movie, it has to change. So anybody who was complaining about Chris Pratt, they really just don't know what the fuck they're talking about. They're just misled by
I assume the movie 30 years ago was just no accent at all, really. Maybe a Brooklyn accent, but
but I mean, it's Bob Hoskins doing a Brooklyn accent. I mean, he's a British actor doing a standard kind of New Yorkish accent. So, and again, that movie came out prior to Super Mario Brothers 64 coming out. So we didn't I take that back. The only version of Mario that we had heard was from the cartoon show. So there was that, but and I guess it was similar to the Charles Martinet version, but
okay, but real quick though, you asked Kevra, and then I completely hijacked it. So Kevra, do you have anything else to say on that?
I mean, you basically answered the question.
That's basically what he was going to say.
I mean, the only thing I would argue is the fact that there are people who definitely did want that hour-and-a-half version of Charles Martinet, because you'd see people posting like, it would have been awful. Listen to this, like where he does like a fan interaction type of thing, or he did like some sort of like Mario press conference, and everyone's like, "Oh my gosh, this is terrible." But and then other people were like, "This is perfect. This works wonderfully. Like I don't know what you're talking about. This is exactly what I would want." I'm just
no way. No way.
So some people are just disagree, and I don't agree with them at all, but I'm with you. I'm absolutely with you.
Had they been subject to that, they would. That'd be torture. And that again, I just thought that was a brilliant move to just give you 30 seconds of it where you're like, that's. And I think somebody even says they're like, what's with the voices? By by calling attention to it, that was just a great move. And then they did that throughout the movie. They if you paid attention, there were I caught the Toad voice. They would put the voices of the video game characters in here and there. I definitely caught Toad. At one point, he was, whoever was that played Toad was like, "Hey," and then it was the Toad voice from the video game. So they paid respect to the voices that have been there for decades. But you have to understand. Okay, beyond the marketing, which is like the reason they go with Pratt and Day is obviously because like every animated movie today, they need to have big voices because of box office draw. But beyond that, these are actors, and Charles Martinet is a voice actor voicing a character who only ever says 10 words. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He does do other characters though. Like,
yes,
to be fair, that's what other people.
Everybody in these games, Yeah.
Well, and he also does like other games because he did Skyrim, and everyone's like, yeah, you can see him as just a goofy like Italian plumber guy, like from the Mario games. But he can also do like this, and then they show like him speaking as a dragon in Skyrim, and like he's got range. He could have done this role in a different way, but at the same time, why have him do it in a different way? Especially like you said, there's the celebrity aspect. They got to go out and promote this movie. Nobody knows really who Charles Martinet is except for the Nintendo fans.
Yeah, and they can go play the video games. That's what I'll keep coming back to that all night. It's like you can just go off and play those games, but the movie, the rules are a little different. But he played that guy playing the video game. He also played the dad. Charles Martinet was the dad.
Yeah,
so they gave him some stuff, and I'm like, that's great.
Just keeps going.
What did you say, motherfucker?
Listen, yo, you tramping on my.
I'm pouring more Evan Williams inside my PG.
You tramping on my part of the show, yo. All right, so we got Anya Taylor-Joy voices Princess Peach, and Keegan Michael Key voices Toad. Anya Taylor-Joy was born in. So this is just a weird, interesting fact about her. She was born in Florida, so she is still a U.S. citizen, but her family is from Argentina. So she kind of grew up in a weird thing where she's an American, but she was raised in Argentina, and she still had to relearn English. It was a weird thing. But she's
a favorite of mine. I think she's really fucking good.
But you've seen her in Split. She was in The Witch. She's in Glass, which is Charlie's favorite movie, and then and The Menu as well, which I have not seen yet. But
Menu's good.
Looking for. I want to see that one. And then of course we know Keegan Michael Key. He's the Key of Key and Peele, and we all know him from our days staying up late and watching Mad TV. And but the sketches from Key and Peele are also so legit. So
yeah,
I watched that while eating dinner just before this.
So good stuff from these guys. My favorite from this movie, probably Jack Black,
of course,
voicing.
You always
Bowser.
Gotta love Jack Black.
Dude, it's Jack Black. Like
he was my favorite. I think he was my favorite out of all the characters. I think Bowser was my favorite of all the characters in this movie.
We'll get to
and
Bowser.
Then of course Seth Rogen voices Donkey Kong. And then honestly, not a lot to say here. It's Jack Black and Seth Rogen, two of the biggest stoners in Hollywood. Black has a music video out for the film, and it's titled Peaches, and you should go check it out.
Yeah,
it's great.
That was a highlight.
I didn't really notice Seth's voice to begin with, and then you catch it later on, and then
and you're
it's kind of all you can hear. But
I will say I
don't think it was.
He's the only one. He's the only one that I question. He's the only one where I go, really, Seth Rogen?
Really, Seth Rogen?
He's the only one.
I thought it was fantastic. He laughs and it sounds like a gorilla ape. That sounds like ape-like.
Sure,
that's true.
He's the only one I question though, where I'm like, Seth Rogen is Donkey Kong, but that's it.
It works for me. It works for me.
Sure, it works.
All right,
it works.
And then, of course, Charlie already talked all about this, but of course, they announced Chris Pratt voicing Mario. People lost their shit, and then we got Charles Martinet, iconic voice. And he was the voice since Mario 64, moving all the way forward till today. And then also, and you also already mentioned, he is that guy in the
parlor.
Punch Out Pizzeria is what it's called.
Mm-hmm.
And he's supposed to be. He plays that voice, and then he's also the voice of the father of Mario and Luigi. So
okay, before you move along. I had the pleasure of meeting Mr. Charles at E3 years ago. I used to make Nintendo used to do things called sneak peeks, which if you were a kid, I don't remember the years that I made them, but if you were a kid going to see a kid's movie, they would play 2 minutes of
Oh yeah.
a Nintendo sneak peek, and I made those. And the funny thing about them was that we would shoot all these, sketches, and we'd have a hostess and all these things. The guy who did it before I started directing them was his name's Joe. I can't remember his last name, but Joe is awesome. He's Joe, aka guy with awesome hair on Stranger Things. I just know him as Joe because he and I would just play Game Boy on set. And I have photos of him on the Nintendo set that I could pull up that I don't have handy. But Joe and I would just play what?
Sure.
Joe and I would just play. Well, I'll bring him up then, motherfucker. Joe and I would
you worked for Nintendo.
We'd play Game Boy and just like bullshit all day while he'd be acting and I'd be doing my thing. But then I started directing those, and we went to E3 one year, and I was like, hell yeah. I've always wanted to go to E3. Well, we're walking through the hallway and Charles Martinet walks by. We're like, Charles, we gotta, can we chit chat with you? I have never met anybody that enjoys their life more than this man. This guy,
that's cool,
loves his life, loves being Mario, and he voices tons of Nintendo characters. But Charles Martinet is the happiest guy ever. And he just walks through E3.
Can you blame him?
He's a legend. I blacked out my buddies because I don't know if they want to be on this. They're Nintendo employees. I don't, but so he's like, oh, we chit chat with him for a bit, and he'll tell you anything. Like, he's just a fun dude. And then, so when you take photos, of course, he's like, okay, first off, you got to do the thumbs up. And then he's like, all right, everybody break bricks. And so, he's and look at him. He's taken that photo a billion times, but he just loves it. Like, he is such a passionate dude. He's so much fun. And he'll do whatever. He'll just, hey, can you do my voicemail real quick? He's an amazing dude. So whether he got this role or not, he doesn't care. He loves his life more than anybody on the planet. So God bless Mr. Martinet.
There we go. And then my final thing, this one's gonna be a choose your own adventure, friends. You guys are gonna get to tell me all of your Easter eggs, because honestly, there are tons of videos out there that have a bunch of Easter eggs. I noticed, for instance, Paulina, who's she's the woman on the far. She's in the left. I'm trying to think, but yeah, if you're watching,
the woman in the dress,
the woman in the dress. I'm like, wait, is it flip?
The only woman on the screen.
She is Paulina is supposed to be the character from Donkey Kong, and then of course she was in Mario Odyssey, which we'd already talked about. But then we saw there's Kid Icarus. The pizzeria is called Punch Out Pizzeria, based off the Punch Out game. There's some of the designs from Mario Party 3 in the apartment that they go to on the walls. Of course, you see the select screen for the Mario Kart when they're selecting their karts, which I was like, oh yeah, you got the wrong wheels, buddy. I was like, those aren't the right wheels. That's not the right cart. You chose poorly. And then there's an R-Wing on top of the television, which was kind of cool, because I was like, oh, are they going to do a Star Fox movie at some point? And you saw Diddy Kong, all of the Diddy Kong characters from all those games. You got Donkey Kong 64. They played the rap from Donkey Kong 64. And then I believe you see the Duck Hunt Duck. Which things did you guys see? Did you guys see any other Easter eggs that, stuck
the
out?
The main one would be that Mario goes off and plays an NES. Did you mention that? Because it's not.
Well, I was saying
Icarus. Yeah. But I mean, this is one of those movies where the immortal words of what's his name, Rick, what's his name, who produced the Star Wars prequels, words. It's so dense. Every image has so much going on in it. This is one of those movies where they just packed so much into. Oh, look at that. And just you got to screenshot the whole movie to see all the stuff they packed into it, which you kind of expect when you hand this property over to Illumination, to a major a major animation studio to do it justice, right? Again, for me, I wish the story was given more justice, but the lore, the just video game, the celebration that is Mario, that stuff was definitely there. No doubt.
Definitely.
I don't know beyond what you
anyone
have. I
you?
didn't really catch that much. So,
Was there anything that you caught?
I mean,
You mentioned
Anything
a
that I
lot.
didn't mention? Like, there's
But
so
yeah,
much
there's
more.
hard
You mentioned
too,
like so many of the
because
ones.
it's not like they do a super blatantly obvious reference. Not that they don't, but like every little detail seems like it's a reference. Like in a
Yeah.
construction zone, the I-beams or whatever look like the donkey or the like
Yeah.
Jumpman or whatever I-beams. Like everything in the whole movie.
Or even
is
there was those
designed.
sequences when they're like going basically from left to right, and it's like it's
Mhm.
like watching the game on screen as they're
Like
playing.
Mario's doing parkour and Luigi's trying to catch up.
Yeah.
Or the way he
Those-
runs, like there's so many different things they did. But the one thing I couldn't quite place, and it was like my favorite character, was that little blue star. Maybe I haven't played that game.
was that princess's
That's from.
do
you have the game?
Rosalina's like
doesn't
friend.
Rosalina have a little
Mario
Oh,
blue
you mean the
star?
Luma?
Yeah, the Luma.
Yeah.
Isn't that who that
It's
was?
from
this is the
Galaxy?
Galaxy games.
I haven't played
Yeah.
the Galaxy
Mario
games.
Which
Yeah.
obviously that was my favorite part of the whole damn movie, that they suddenly would slip in this weird nihilistic weirdo star thing talking about,
This sweet release
Love
of
it.
death.
death. And
There we go. Mario
Yeah. The
Galaxy.
blue version of that.
It's the blue version. There you go.
Yeah.
That was
There's
that
also
was where-
green. There's I think red. So, yeah.
Like
There's lots of
Kevra, my
different
whole thing is usually pointing out the moments where for 5 minutes I'm laughing, annoying everybody in the theater because I'm still laughing about what happened 5 minutes ago, and I'm trying to control myself, and everybody's like moved on, 4 minutes ago. But that
Yeah.
whole thing with the weird blue star thing, just the voice of a child talking, spewing this weird Nietzsche-esque, like nihilistic stuff about death and meaninglessness, like that was there for me apparently. Well, all the kids were confused while I was laughing my ass off, but
Yeah, they didn't understand that type of humor. That was
Yeah.
definitely for the adults, 100%.
Yeah.
totally, yeah.
So Nans, so I we don't skip the format. What was
Sticking
your
to ceremony?
what was your thought of the film? What did you?
I think
How did
SP
you-
put
what'd
it
you
really well here. It was pancakes with no sweet taste. It's pancakes and you love pancakes, but it was just a bit bland.
Yes,
Like
perfect.
I sitting there was never I was pretty bored. I was bored. And I think the only enjoyment I got out of it was realizing the different references. That
Okay.
was the only enjoyable aspect of the movie.
Okay. All right. Well, then, again, sticking to ceremony, going around the horn, would y'all recommend it? Starting with you, Nans.
No. Speaking to
No?
an audience of me. If you have kids that like these, sure, I guess.
Okay. You fellas in the video game
Because the
room?
kids in the theater, I could tell, enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Of course,
I
it's a
would
big,
recommend it.
colorful
But, like-
movie. Of course, they're going to
Like
enjoy it.
Pixar does it so much better. Like
Yeah, they do.
where there's something for everyone and it's still like a really great story.
Yeah.
This is more like I would imagine what Minions is like. Just like a bunch of stupid stuff happening.
I think
kids are like,
Minions,
"Eh."
but I think Minions lands better than this movie.
Does it?
But
I haven't
as far
really
as far
seen
as
them,
you
so I don't
asking
know.
about Charlie asking like, would I recommend this? I would recommend this for people who have for kids who have families as well. Sorry, kids who have families. That's weird.
Oh,
That's
no.
weird. Families.
16
I would-
pregnant.
I would, 16 pregnant, bro. I would recommend it, but yeah, of course, if you're not a Mario fan or if you don't have kids, I'd be like, you could go watch Air instead.
If you're hanging out with your family this Easter weekend and just need to
That would-
tire the
that's-
kids out.
I would see this on, if you're with your family, go with your family, go see the movie.
Yeah.
Which is
I mean-
mostly a not recommend, it sounds like.
No, I would. Yeah.
See, here's the thing: is I feel like most people are Mario fans. Like almost everyone's played a Mario game.
Yeah.
Everyone's
Like everyone is a
familiar.
Mario fan to a certain extent. So it's like it's hard not to recommend this because while I do think this does play better for kids, again, I have seen grown adults my age talking about how much they love this movie for all the references, for all the Easter eggs, for it just creating so much smile, all the music. Like they just talk about how much they don't talk about the story being great, but like they talk about like everything else about it being great. Almost like an action movie that has like a terrible plot, but you go because it's got boom boom action. It's really cool looking kind of a situation. So it's hard to not recommend because again, unless you just never played a Mario game before or you only played like maybe one, it seems like it would be a movie that could possibly be for anybody that you could enjoy.
I guess the way I look at it is you go to the movie to watch a movie, not to watch a series of. Just look up a compilation video on YouTube of the best Mario moments or something, if that's what you want to see.
Overall, it is something that obviously we're torn on, because I'm usually the one where I'm like, if it's not perfection, then die. It better be a good movie, or
if you recommend this, I will be shocked.
Because there are so many alternatives, right? I would say at base, stay home and play Odyssey. Stay home and play Odyssey. It's the same storyline, and Odyssey is an incredible game.
Pay $60 to buy an old game, because Nintendo never lowers their prices.
Yes.
But play with the family.
I also used to, again, working for Nintendo, I hawked the shit out of Odyssey. But the first time I played it, I was like, this is great. This is a miracle. I had so much goddamn fun playing it. And I still play with nieces and nephews, who I took my nephew to see this.
I imagine
Nance, you are not
very
wrong.
Brief
Nance,
Luigi's Mansion reference.
Oh, Luigi's Mansion is the shit. Nance, you are correct. Just, you can skip this. So you and McCurdy are so you say no. McCurdy says, if you have kids. But I do agree with Mr. Kevra. I do agree that it is this celebration of Mario-ness. It is. It has so many goddamn flaws. But it still is one of those things where, for a theater-going experience, it is a celebration of Mario. I wish the story was better, but I can't contend with that idea of it being a Mario celebration. I mean, even that's why in my intro, I'm like, it is a joyous movie. I left being like, that was joyous. Story fucking sucked, but it was even just down to the music and just the environments and everything. That's where I'm like, okay. And it's as Kevra pointed out, who isn't a Mario fan? Who hasn't at least played a game? So it's fun at times. It relies on a sense of humor through most of it, because it doesn't have a lot going on in the story department. But I'm gonna go ahead and recommend it. My brother-in-law was like, "Fuck this movie. This movie sucks." But we just threw out a million caveats.
His time is worth more money than yours.
Sure, but we just threw out a million caveats. His son loved it, and that's the thing. Like I always say, avoid caveats, because fuck your caveats. But this is a kids movie, and it should be a Pixar movie where it should satisfy the adults just as much. But it is something that the story sucks, but it is a celebration of Mario, and for that, I'm just like,
I feel like Charlie needs to chug his drink, because he's breaking every rule he has ever said.
I am.
He's a hypocrite.
Cheers.
We all know this. Yeah. So so Charlie, your whole point about the movie, as far as what you kind of said in your intro about it is lacking in story, and I would completely agree. Like my thing, and I was talking to Kevra about this.
Stay home.
We got
I recommend it, but also stay home and play Odyssey instead. Like
you could wait.
I have a foot in both camps.
I agree
Fuck
with
you guys.
As far as it's I agree with you as far as, like, if you go see it in the theater, it's so much more fun than I think if you were to watch this at home. So I would see this in the theater.
At home, you would just turn it off and play Odyssey.
I wish I would have watched it in Dolby instead of IMAX.
Yeah.
IMAX?
Here's the good thing about watching at home, though, is you can freeze frame stuff to really catch, like, all those
references. I saw that.
Click through the entire movie frame by frame.
I missed the Starfighter, not the
Star Fox.
Yeah,
I didn't see any Star Fox stuff.
So my thing with the movie was, Charlie, your point was, like, it just didn't feel as full as Pixar, and I felt like this movie was. I was hoping this movie would be a lot more like Lego Movie, and Lego Movie specifically is a movie that you went into it knowing that this is a 90-minute commercial or 2-hour commercial for a product, and you would leave with that movie realizing, like, oh crap, like, no, I forgot Lego actually hits you in more of like a childlike sense. Like, there was actually more to the story of playing with Lego, and not just being
what
a
I
product.
remember from the Lego Movie was that Dad was saying, you
can't
play with anything.
Mess with my stuff.
Yeah, everything is fixed. Everything is glued down, and you can't be imaginative.
Right.
And it's the dad kind of learning he's getting back in touch with his childhood roots of,
so
no, Legos can be anything. You can create anything.
Yeah, but you left that movie feeling like, oh crap, like the Lego Movie hit. Like, you're like, damn, I thought this was just going to be a commercial. This was awesome. Like, this movie was really good. this is what I felt was missing out of this movie was you mentioned the arcs. I felt like the movie tries to set up those moments, but then the payoff don't really match any of the setups.
Yeah.
And so it feels really like you said, the ending felt kind of weak. And I thought that
the ending is
like
very
they
weak.
had at least 3 ideas. There were at least 3 ideas that were thrown on the table as I was watching this movie. One of which, like it sounds like they had thought about was, because when you play Mario, and I've seen this on like a Mark Robin video. I don't know if you watched him. He's an engineer. He did a TED talk about talking about engineering, like playing Mario. You would play Mario, you'd lose, and then you'd start over again, and then try to remember the thing that you didn't do, and then you'd keep doing it. And they show that in the movie, but it's not like Mario learns that trait. He already has that by the beginning of the movie. So I liked that idea of like never giving up being like the moral theme of the movie, but it never really plays off like that's the theme. The other thing is like just Mario being
so disparate, all the motivations and
we never see that.
They're disparate. They're all over the place. There isn't a singular motivation throughout.
There's the other one that's probably what the movie tries to go for is more like nobody. And I would argue that the movie does the best job of trying to like display this one was that so Mario, his family, nobody believes in what he's trying to do. He's trying to set out and create a man for himself. He's doing this blue collar thing. He's like, I'm gonna be a plumber. I'm gonna create this.
I want to start a business. And his family's like, that's stupid. Why would you start a business? That's
but they're like,
why would you
give up on the pipe dream?
They're like, give up on this dream. Don't do this. But like under that,
what was their alternative?
I want to save Brooklyn. I want to be, I want to be the
Mario,
Superman
keep us
that's
selling
in
the
commercial.
drugs on the street.
The Super
don't
Mario
start a business.
commercial.
Like, I did not.
Why
was
the
his
movie
dad
tries to do that?
His
the
job?
movie, but the movie tries to at least establish that theme where it's like, my family doesn't believe in what I do. And then we get to Donkey Kong and he's like, my dad doesn't believe what I do. And you're like, okay, I see the movie's trying to like put those pieces together. And then when his basically his fall moment when Bowser has kicked his ass and he's in the pizzeria and the TV's there and he's like bruised. You want that moment to be like super impactful and emotional, but it really doesn't land because like all it is he looks at the TV and it says, save Brooklyn. And he's like, save Brooklyn. And I'm like, that's not enough for like a punt. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not enough
Super
to
Mario
really, like,
Brothers movie. There wasn't enough of the brothers, right?
Yeah. And then that was the other thing. The movie tries to do like, as family, we stick together. We can go through anything. I'm like, the movie doesn't say that at all other than very late in the movie. It just kind of arbitrarily Luigi says like, we stay together, we can do this.
They first say that when they're going through the pipe, and they go through them. So as usual, we're in spoiler territory. After Nan's react,
should we do a full synopsis real quick then?
Oh, you got one?
No.
Well,
we can do one.
So basically, Mario is a Brooklyn plumber, like he is in the games, and him and his brother Luigi have just started creating this plumbing business, which is again like the games, and nobody believes in what they're doing, and so
they're really, really good plumbers, but nobody believes in them. So
like they
and is any of that canon? Minus no.
They do a fantastic job on their first gig, but then a dog
ruins their gig,
messes it up. But they're fucking fantastic plumbers. They fix that sink in 2 seconds.
But meanwhile, so this happens, and then one day, there's always a one day, the city, there's this really bad pipe burst that happens, and Mario's like, we got to save Brooklyn after he's already been emotionally damaged. He's like, we're going to go save Brooklyn. They don't know what they're doing, and he obviously knows what to fix, of course, but while they're doing that, they end up in this section of the sewer where there's all these pipes, and they're like, this is weird. We've never been on this part of the city before.
Magical
and then they get
pipe.
sucked. They get sucked into a warp pipe like they would in the game. Is that what are they called? Warp pipes?
Warp pipe.
Yeah, they get sucked into the warp pipe and they end up in the Mushroom Kingdom. Meanwhile, in the Mushroom Kingdom, Bowser has gotten the star, the star that makes you invincible in the game. The power star, and
that he conveniently doesn't use yet.
Yeah,
he doesn't
use it, but he's going
because he knows it only lasts 30 seconds or whatever. So
his plan is that he's going to go
on a date with Peach.
Yeah. His plan is he's going to try to get Peach to marry him. That's his whole plan, but Peach doesn't know that. Peach thinks that he's going to try to take over the world. So
yeah, he wants to be
that's the movie in a nutshell.
Yeah. So okay, so as they're going through the warp pipe for the first time and they're going, what the hell's going on? He catches up with Luigi because Luigi went through first, and they're holding on to each other, and he says, as long as we're together, we can do anything. And then they get separated, and that's kind of the whole. That is the if I had to pick out one primary motivation for Mario, it's I got to get back to my brother. This is a Super Mario Brothers movie, but the motivation is shifting per scene, right? So in the beginning, it's I want to be the successful plumber. For some reason, everybody's poo-pooing him getting a job and starting a company. Even his dad is like, why would you do that? You could be a prostitute. Like, it doesn't. I don't understand.
No, he left
why
his job for Spike though, because he was working with or for Spike, and then
I think it was more. I think it's more not so much he's trying to be a plumber. No, I think it's not so much. I think his dad's mindset is like, no, I don't want you to start your own business. Why aren't you just working for other businesses?
Which is dumb.
Save you
which is dumb because Mario is a really good fucking plumber. He proves right away that he's
a good
really good at plumbing.
To own a company. Like, he's a good plumber, which is why he was great working with Spike. But is he good at marketing and?
But my thing though, my thing would be
prefer
that if they needed, if this is the Mario overall, I'm going to go through the motivation. But overall, if this is the Mario Brothers movie, they should have been really bad at plumbing in the beginning, or they should have been bad at working together as plumbers. If you're going to have them come together at the end to fight evil, they should be really bad at working together in the beginning, and then through the adventure, they learn to work together. Because you can't have Mario save the girl up for some reason. So it has what is the other motivation? Well, the Mario brothers learn to work together, but in the beginning, they're really good at working together. So there's no growth. They need
to suck at something to learn. And that's usually what you want. Like, it's not that every movie needs to have a lesson. Like, your characters don't always need to learn a lesson in a movie. But if you're making a lot of times when it's a kids movie, you got to have a moral lesson or some kind of moral quandary that they like have to grow. Yeah.
So so the first
that's the thing that's lacking in the movie.
Yeah. Then it's I want to be famous, which he technically says I'm tired of being small. He just wants to be somebody. Now he doesn't just want to be a successful plumber. He wants to be somebody. Then it's I got to save my brother, and he does that by finding Peach. He's like, maybe once he lands in the Mushroom Kingdom, so they get separated. Luigi ends up in like Nightmare Land,
Bowser Land.
Goes to Bowser Land, and Mario ends up in the Mushroom Kingdom. So it's like maybe if I get to Peach, she can help me find him. Then we have the training montage where Peach trains him on how to jump over obstacles to get to a flag, just like in the game. Then it's we need to convince the Donkey Kongs to fight for the Mushroom Kingdom.
Pause there. So that was another thing that I thought. So one thing I talked about, or when I was thinking about this movie, is I felt like there are moments where the movie it feels like a kid starts writing the movie for some reason. Like they're like, how are we going to stop them?
They're trying to get as many references in as possible.
Well, why do we have to go to Donkey Kong? Because Donkey Kong, like the Kongs have an army and they can help us. And I'm like, okay. I guess
Shigeru was like, well, we got to put all my shit in there. Duh.
Yeah.
Well, no, there's literally an interview where he talked about like his main goal and Nintendo's goal was to have all these references, to have all this video game stuff in it, while Illumination was kind of in charge of the story.
Yeah.
So like, I don't know necessarily if like the story came first and then they put all the references in, or if it's basically Miyamoto going, hey, here's a thing of all the things you need in this movie, make it all tie together with the story. And they were like, okay.
So you're saying
it's a weird exposition dump to be like,
Nintendo
can we save that for the sequel? Nope.
They need to pull an MCU.
Yeah.
Well,
and that's the thing.
I feel like
where's Wario? Where's Waluigi? Like they will make a sequel and they will expand, but it's like, okay, you're gonna have Donkey Kong right away. So
yeah, but I think if it makes sense to me is that, well, Mario's first appearance is in Donkey Kong, so why not have Donkey Kong in that movie?
And
so like I liked that.
There's
some of the Donkey Kong stuff I actually did like. So.
Sure. Yeah. So then we got to beat Bowser. We got to save Peach, even though Peach is holding her own. And then Mario directly causes the Brooklyn problem. So Bowser, in his desperation to, I don't know, create mayhem because Peach keeps refusing to marry him, he sends a Bullet Bill, which has its own issues. So Bullet Bill, the famous massive bomb-looking, bullet-looking bomb, is heading to Peach's castle, and it's like it's going to blow up the castle, and Mario is now in raccoon power-up mode. And
it's a Tanuki suit.
A Tanuki suit. Fuck you. And he hits Bullet Bill on the eyeball.
Yeah.
And that
does Bill
you guys
ever
tell me
change
why
directions?
the fuck he stopped because of that? What the fuck?
That was a weird moment. I saw that and I went, what? I mean, I guess. Yeah. I also thought it was weird that he sent the bullet to the warp pipe. Like, I'm like, first off, that's the only way back home that you know of. Yeah. And then second of all, like, that's gonna do some. That's like. That just seems like a really bad idea.
Well, maybe his thinking was that, like, because it goes to the warp pipe. I mean, I'm just defending the movie because it goes to the warp pipe. But like, it goes to the warp pipe. But we already know earlier in the movie that like Mario and Luigi did not end up in the same spot. So maybe his thinking was like, oh, we'll send it home
to my family where they're all fucking assholes. Yeah, they're fucking bad. You never believe me. Yeah.
Or maybe he wanted to pull an Iron Man and fly it through a galaxy wormhole.
That would have been good. Yeah. But that whole thing, right? So redirecting Bullet Bill was wait, what? Why? What are you doing, Bullet Bill? You almost did your thing, and then because he touched your eyeball, now you're pissed off at Mario. So he chases Mario. Mario leads him to the warp pipe. The warp pipe, I guess, goes to Brooklyn. So then Bullet Bill goes into magical transportation realm, explodes for some reason, then sucking Bowser's whole castle island, floating island setup into Brooklyn, which at that moment, I remember thinking, oh, are they going to, because of that, are they going to combine our world, the real world, with Mario? And that's why you would have something like New Donk City, from our Odyssey. Are they about to combine? Like the worlds are about to combine? No, we're just back in Brooklyn. And the moment that happened, I was like, oh no, because what you're looking at is Mario created a mess. Mario made 9/11 happen. Mario caused 9/11 in Brooklyn, and then him and everybody else start battling Bowser.
I think Shigeru was just trying to get revenge for Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
Wow.
Okay. Just if I could cut in that beep. Yeah. Anyway,
like what happens in this movie?
I mean, that's the thing is, it made more sense in this movie where they there's that crystal that takes them like to one place or the other, but then they put it like inside of the that little transporter and like it gets stuck and then it merges the two worlds. That's basically what happens.
That's literally in the other movie.
Two worlds.
They merge the two worlds. That's literally what happens.
Yeah. They don't stay merged. They eventually take it back out.
No, but that's what he's trying to do because they're like, our worlds were not apart. Now they're together. And like,
I would have been cool with that. I was like, that's cool. We're gonna legitimize again, like New Donk City, which is New York City, but it's in the Mario world. But no, now you have Bowser's Castle Island thing in Brooklyn, and him and Luigi work together. And the whole power-up thing is kind of messy, right? So it's explained early on in his training that you use power-ups to do things just like in the games. But the end of the movie, the big climactic fight of the movie is Mario not using his training per se, but just suddenly getting the invincibility of the power star that was Bowser's in order to kick Bowser's ass, which is like anybody could have done that. Anybody could have just grabbed the power star and beat up Bowser. It's like there you suddenly don't have meaning. I mean, if I'm somebody as with Bond, as with everything we watch, I'm always trying to watch it in a vacuum, which is to say, ignore anything you know about that universe and watch it as if you have virgin eyes, right? And anybody watching this, 100 years from now who's never played a Mario game is like, wait, that's the ending? Is it they touch that star and now they can do anything, and so they just beat him up? Like, what the fuck? Anybody could have done that. Which reflects my whole theme, which is like, why do you need Mario in this movie? Mario caused the problem in the first place. He brought the fucking terrorist attack to Brooklyn. So if you just erase Mario from existence, everybody's better off. Everybody is better off without Mario in this fucking movie.
I disagree with that, because here's the thing is like, What I mean, what are they gonna? I mean, yeah, anybody could have touched it, but like, who necessarily would have touched it? Peach didn't do it whenever she was like so close. She's like, Bowser's like, I got it for us, kind of a situation.
But no, Charlie's point though is like, Charlie's point though is like, even if that was the case, like the movie has already done this dumb idea of establishing Peach can already do all these amazing things,
right?
Which is fine. But like, I also I just have to mention, I hated the fact that the movie like skirts like playing Mario Kart. You're skirting and you're drifting towards, oh, she's gonna be a Mary Sue. She's gonna be a Mary Sue. Oh, she's not. Oh, she's a Mary Sue, because the movie's like, oh, I did it, and it took me many tries to do it, and you're like, oh, well, that makes me feel better, and like that would have been great. You leave that in the movie, that would have actually told a lesson or told a story, and then like that would have made the movie make thematically way more sense. But no, for some reason they're like, she's like, no, I did it right on the first try. Like, it was used as a humorous joke, and I was like, oh god.
But it undermines any kind of like.
It undermines
I'm
like
perfect.
I've always been story perfect. In the movie.
I don't need you, Mario. I don't even know why I'm fucking talking to you. I'm gonna go kick Bowser's ass. And that could have been the case, and that's my point. Why didn't she grab the fucking star and kick some ass?
She didn't need to fight. I mean, she could have probably beat Donkey Kong. Like, there's another version of this movie
wouldn't be
where
in Brooklyn if Mario hadn't existed in the first place. And
like the movie needed something to tie those elements together. Like, if you're gonna have like that was the thing about the 93 movie, was that like Bowser's whole mission in that movie was that he needed to go to Brooklyn or try to merge the two worlds, and that's why he needed this crystal, and so Brooklyn was at stake in that movie. This movie, it was like what you're explaining is that now the danger is in his world, which I think is still a good move to do that or do something like that, but I don't like the way that it transpires. Like, it would have been neat if like, oh, we defeated Bowser and he goes back to Brooklyn and everything's hunky-dory, but then wait, it's not, and then Bowser comes or whatever. Like, that would have been a better way
Bowser
of tying into a third act.
Tunnel.
And
then he starts.
And he's all
the
battered and bruised.
Oh no! Yeah.
Like, what if the movie was like, instead of it almost hitting the Mushroom Kingdom, and then he throws it back to the Bowser Castle and it blows up and like everything's great, and you feel like it's an ending, and then like they're back in the or they're back in Brooklyn and they bring Peach along and Toad's there, and it'd be really funny. Yep. And then you're like, wait, this movie there's more time. Like, what? That doesn't seem right. And then all of a sudden Bowser comes up and then starts attacking, and then Mario and Luigi, like, that's the third act of the movies. They have to save Brooklyn. Yeah. But we got this weird.
What we have is like something similar to like a Chronicles of Narnia, right? Where you discover this amazing alternate reality, and the temptation right away would be, why would I ever go back to the real world? I just want to stay here. And that's almost like, a different version of the script would have been, okay, Mario saved the world and got the girl and all that, and now it's time to go home. And then last second, he's like, why would I go home? There's nothing back there for me except for, my family, but they don't care for me anyway. I'm going to stay here, because once you leave the real world, why would you go back? Why would you go back to Brooklyn as opposed to the choice to stay in the Mushroom Kingdom forever and then just keep, and because the video games never deal with a real world. That was just there to legitimize, why the fuck is he a plumber? Why does he wear white gloves? Why the red? Why the green? Why the weird uniforms? And that's what the whole opening was just like, why are they plumbers? But because plumbing never comes back into the story again. It's just there to be like, well, it has to be. Again, like Kevra, you pointed out, it's like Nintendo says we need to have them be plumbers. So like, oh shit. Okay, so they.
I mean, it'd be weird if they weren't plumbers, though, wouldn't it? Like, if you had a Mario movie and they weren't plumbers, it's like, that is what Mario and Luigi are.
I agree, but that never comes back into the story. And so why once they leave, it's like we talked about King Arthur's court or whatever with Bond, and I'm sure at the end of that movie he went back home. But it's like, once you find the fantastical world, why would you even entertain the idea of going back to Brooklyn? Why why is that even a possibility, as opposed to once they go through that green pipe, it's like, we stay forever, because I got to the girl, and I think guy,
well, with stories like this, like Wizard of Oz, like if you remember in that movie, Dorothy's whole thing is like, I have to get back to my family. My family's not doing well. Like, I'm concerned for my family. And like you
I'm saying,
could make that happen in something like this too, where it's like instead of his family berating him and being, you know, complete a-holes to him, like we actually see his family be nice to him. And then he's like, you know, we just want what's best for you, Mario. Like we're not trying to like ruin your life, but we, you know, we want what's best for you, whatever.
Necessary to the story, as opposed to Mario and Luigi are like, maybe we should go back, and then Mario and the brothers are standing there and it's like, you know what? Let's stay. Yeah, let's stay. And they stay in this fantastical world. Just
but that's
like
what the movie ends up being. Is they end of the movie is they end up in the Mushroom Kingdom, and they're like the movie makes you think, oh, they're back in Brooklyn, and they're like, nope. They're living in a little house.
Why
in the
even
Kingdom,
go back is my point. Why bring once you leave Brooklyn, leave it. Like we should never have gone back in my view. But let me just pivot to my alternate version. The usual where I go through.
Here's what I think should be your alternate version.
Oh, okay.
Peter Jackson directs a trilogy. And they travel through all the different Super Mario worlds. We get a swimming zone, get a desert zone.
Okay. And they just jump on things. They just jump on platforms.
Just jumping.
They're just jumping around. That's all they're doing. There's a plot. No, they're just jumping.
I will always respect me being Shia LaBeouf.
I had to find a good one. I was like, oh yeah, originally I was gonna go with a kid destroying his TV because
yeah.
But I was like, nah, it's gotta be more Mario related. So I was like, yeah, let's get Mario and Bowser in Mario Kart. You know, that one's good. There we go.
So 20 years ago, this is what this movie would have been in my view. So like I said, if it's going to be the Mario Brothers movie and the whole thing is at the end is them learning to work together, it should have been at the beginning they don't work together well, right? And maybe they work for their dad and they feud. They're Cain and Abel. They just can't stand each other. And his dad's like, why can't you two work together to fix a toilet or whatever? But
competing plumbing businesses.
Yeah, well, and because they're the Mario Brothers, right? So if you can't have Peach be the prime motivation, you know, save the world to get the girl, James Bond style, have it be these brothers feud and they got to work together, and that's like your perfect origin. So that kind of being how I would set out. Instead of the movie opening with, so the movie does open with an invasion of a peaceful penguin kingdom.
That's from Mario 64, right?
Yeah. And it's all
something like that.
Most everything's play for laughs, as it should be, and so Bowser invades a penguin kingdom to steal the superstar. Instead of that, just have it just be Bowser invading the Mushroom Kingdom, right? Open up with the beautiful Mushroom Kingdom with all the toads and everything's all peaceful. Here comes Bowser. He's invading the Mushroom Kingdom. Bowser goes in, he starts talking with Peach, right? And just like an invasion would be, they have their little parlay. And Peach, during their negotiation, unleashes her secret weapon, who turns out to be, big surprise, oh, it's DK. So you have, right off the bat, you have Donkey Kong versus Bowser, right? Donkey Kong loses. Bowser wins and imprisons DK. So it's almost like how you imprison the Hulk or something, right? Like you take the biggest, baddest motherfucker in the Nintendo realm, and he's off the table, right? He's in that little, he's floating over lava in the cage, right? So he's off the table. So he was like the world champion, right? So he was like Donkey Kong, the guy who defeated King K. Rool. Bowser defeated him. Holy shit, Bowser's a badass motherfucker. He's gonna kill everybody. Who's gonna save us now? And then that's where you cut over to Mario and you do the same thing, but again, have the brothers not working well together, right? They're Cain and Abel Mario brothers. But the same type of thing happens. They're fighting, they're feuding, and by working on a project, they get sucked into a green tunnel, and now they're in this weird land together. You could separate them, probably keep them together though, right? So they keep feuding. But the main point being that now they're in Nintendo land. But they don't land in the Mushroom Kingdom. They land in Donkey Kong country. And who's there? Not DK, because he's been captured. But they land with Cranky Kong. Cranky Kong, remember, being the bad guy from the original Mario video game, where it's Princess Peach in a cage and you know,
Pauline.
Donkey Kong.
Paulina.
And he's Paulina, and he's throwing barrels down, and they're rolling down those girders. And Jumpman, not even Mario at the time, Jumpman had to jump over the barrels and climb up ladders and run across these girders to get to Paulina and defeat Donkey Kong. And then when you play the Donkey Kong Country games, Cranky Kong is that monkey, but and then his son is Donkey Kong, and he has his own adventures. But Cranky Kong's always talking about the glory days, and he's talking about that video game and how he was like really good at games. So then Mario, the Mario we know and love, but who hasn't become Mario yet, is trained not by Peach, because that's like okay, but kind of dumb. He's trained by Cranky Kong. I mean, it like practically writes itself where he's like, okay, in this exercise, I'm going to stand at the top of this girder thing and I'm going to throw barrels at you. And your training is to jump over these barrels and climb up the thing. And Mario keeps failing and resetting and all that. But he is trained by Cranky Kong and you can imagine their first interaction would be, who the hell are you? And he's like, I'm a Mario. I come from Brooklyn. What are you talking about? We're all in despair because we've lost our champion. I'm old. Diddy's too young. Donkey's been captured. We're all fucked. Who the hell are you? And he's like, I don't know. I'm a Mario. So they train Mario, right? And in this, and so you have Cranky Kong training Mario to then go off and battle Bowser. And that story, that's like your classic hero's journey right there of the like lowly nobody being trained by the old master, by Obi-Wan, right? To then go off and fight the big baddie and save the princess. And once he gets Peach out of jail, once he gets Donkey out of jail, they can all work together to defeat Bowser. But that journey it'd be unexpected for sure that he would land in Donkey Kong Country and everybody's, in a state of panic, but he would become that unlikely hero who would then triumph as he goes and frees everybody to fight Bowser. I think
my big question though is why? Why does Mario give a shit? I mean, the whole thing of like in this movie, like in the actual movie, he's wanting to save his brother. It's all about his family. His brother is like the big thing of like, he's captured. He's in this dark lane. I've got to go save him. And I apparently have to take down Bowser to do it. If he just shows up randomly and like Cranky Kong's like, hey, I'm going to teach you. It's like, why?
Go back it's a page one rewrite. It is a page one rewrite. But whatever his motivation would be, whether it's to get home, like, oh yeah, I'll help you to get home. Or if it's the version of like he needs his brother, maybe you do the same thing where Luigi's been captured and all he cares about is getting back to Luigi, and then like a princess ends up being a cherry.
I thought you said that Luigi needed to work together though. Like that.
That's the thing. Question. That's the thing. It's like introducing this storyline. It becomes it's literally like a page one rewrite where it's like you land on one motivation and you run with it. So it could be any number of things, right? But the prime idea being that Cranky Kong, who in the video games was his original bad guy, being kind of like the old wise the Merlin or the Obi-Wan character,
the
who
teacher,
trains
the wizard,
him. And then plug in whatever fucking motivation you want. But the point being that's what gets everything going. So, okay, is the motivation that he wants to get laid with a princess? Sure. He wants his brother back? Sure. He wants to get home? Sure. Whatever that may be, that's where it's like, just write that in. But the prime... the catalyst being he's sucked out of his home world and ends up with the Kongs first and then has to go rescue the Mushroom Kingdom for whatever his end goal may be. That is what this movie probably would have been 20 years ago versus now where the first thing he does is he finds Peach. He hooks up with Peach right away. Like he finds her right away. And then from there, we got to go convince the Kongs. And then he just kind of, I guess, volunteers for a fight against Donkey Kong, and it's just loose and just
here's my
all over the place.
There's like one fix that I could suggest would be like, what if like Peach trained him, and then like they were gonna go, like she's like, oh, I'll help you, but you got to know this world or whatever, and Peach trains him. But then right after Peach trains him, then like that's when Bowser comes and captures her. And then now he's even more motivated to be like, well, now I got to go save Peach and I got to go save Luigi. And they're both at Bowser. That would at least at least
Which
taken
eventually does happen.
it takes a player off the field where, because that was, what we talked about. It was like, it doesn't make sense why it doesn't make sense why Peach isn't the one doing all the ass kicking, because we already see that she's very capable in the movie.
She's like, well, oh, you're another human, so I'll train you, but I don't need you. So I'll waste all this time training you, even though I don't need you because I already know how to do all this. Or like, Kevra, to answer your question, okay, how about both Mario Brothers land and they're both trained by Cranky Kong? Again, Cranky Kong's like, back in my day, I would have gone off and I would have saved the world, but I'm too old now, as he does in the games. So it's like he trains both Mario and Luigi. And again, the reason they give a shit, maybe it is, he's like, oh, I can get you home. I have a magic coconut crystal and I can get you home. And if you help save this princess and defeat Bowser, I can get you home. Again, plug in your motivation. But the two brothers feuding the whole time and them learning to work together. And then they do learn to work together. And then they go off and save the world. And then it's like, okay, now we want to go home. And Cranky's like, I lied. I actually don't have a magical crystal that will get you home. You're actually trapped here forever. And it's like, oh, we don't care because I have the princess and Luigi's asexual. So he doesn't care. He doesn't need a princess.
That's why we have and then the next movie's like, well, we got to find you a girl. So then they go find Daisy. They go find Princess Daisy.
Yeah.
There you go.
But it's like there's an old school storytelling that was ignored for this because you can't be heroic anymore. And those are typically the types of things that that for me, again, like the problems I had with Dungeons and Dragons was similar, where I'm like, why do you, it's like, or James Bond in the latest movies, he's redundant. It's like, you don't, because this isn't the Peach movie. This is the Super Mario Brothers movie. If you want to make the Peach movie, do it, because she's a playable character. Give her her own story and she can go on off and kick ass. But the moment that Peach can do everything herself, you go, well, why the fuck do you need Mario?
Yeah. I will say, I feel like she should have been more of like a general type of, like she should have been an actual princess, like a leader, as opposed to someone who can like do all these obstacles and whatnot. It felt like she should have been someone who's very diplomatic, someone who has like authority, that
like
kind
Leia.
of thing.
Like Leia.
Or instead of her training him, before we meet Toad, she's like, Toad and her already know each other, and then you find out Toad trains him.
Yeah,
like that's another option. Or
like a
we
little
need you
Yoda.
to, you're our only
because
hope.
Toad's a tiny little Yoda, exactly. Like that's fun.
Or something. Like
he's like,
there's
I would go off and do it myself, but I'm tiny. Like that's
so. Yeah. So looking at that list though,
we have yet to even look at the list.
And I have a very pretty clear idea where I think the movie goes.
Okay.
But so I would venture to say I think this movie lands in the realm of like right above Ant-Man and the Wasp. That's how low I would put it. Like, I'm not saying it's like higher up on the list. It's somewhere the highest it's going to go for me is probably like maybe just above Megan, but like just above Ant-Man and the Wasp is where I'm at. And the reason I thought that I thought about it a lot because I'm like, the movie does, like, I do think you should go to see this in theaters if you're a Mario fan. But I do think like it just misses the mark when it comes to like the story things. And like, I think someone just said below Scream, like maybe it could go above Scream. I mean, it's just one of those things where it's like, it's just the theme isn't really well established enough to make the third act really punch. And like, that's where I think people leave the theater and they're like, yeah, it was fun, but it wasn't that emotional, great like thing that I wanted. And I feel like that's also kind of how I felt with Ant-Man and the Wasp. It was like you left that movie feeling like there should have been more to this, but you didn't get that much out of it, and it wasn't really well established. So that's why I felt like Ant-Man and the Wasp. Missing, I mean, you didn't like the third act. I thought Missing at least like was a very well-driven story, and you're really like engaged with that movie throughout. Megan's also really good with its talent, like its story and theming. So maybe it doesn't beat Megan because I think Megan at least tells a very clear moral story that they're trying to get across by the end of that movie. Then you kind of understand. So I think maybe it's lower than Megan, but above Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Well, let's just address the elephant in the room. Kevra, as a video game master, if two people touch a power star at the same time, do they evenly split it amongst them?
I mean, I thought the
No.
power star thing in general was weird. No, I mean, yeah, then again, it never really happens in general, like, because usually you're playing by yourself. Like,
it's like they took advantage of a glitch to both have the power star at the same time, you know?
Yeah, it was. I mean, the whole power. That was actually one of my biggest complaints was the power star, because I'm like, was it like this, like just what the original power star was, like where it just makes you invincible for 30 seconds and then it's done? Is that the big MacGuffin of the freaking movie, or was it like a Super Mario 64 power star kind of a situation where maybe it lasts up until you can like purge it or something like that?
And there's tons of them, right? Like it would have made more sense if Bowser was going to a whole bunch of kingdoms and taking all of their stars. And once he had enough stars, he'd be powerful.
But that's just bad, like storytelling, because you're going like that's like the chasing MacGuffin after MacGuffin after MacGuffin, like kind of a situation.
Yeah, to me it looked like the Mario 64 star when you clear the course, not the power up.
So within Mario lore, you have two different stars. You have the invincibility star, and then you have the stars. Like I mean, which one is a power star? I don't know, but you have the invincibility star, and then you have the stars you collect in order to have enough power to progress through the game, which nowadays they're not even stars, they're moons. So it was like, it's something where for us who play the games, you go, well, wait a second. I thought this movie was for us as fans of the game, but that's something where my dad would go, I don't know, it's a fucking star. He had the star and then he used the star power, right? And I go, yeah, but Dad, technically, that's an invincibility star, and Mario would have needed at least another 15 stars to have the power enough to fight Bowser, blah, blah, blah. You know, that's where they kind of blurred the line where that's where, for me, I'm like, I am all night. I'm like seconds away from being like, don't see this movie. But at the end of the day, it is a celebration of Mario. So I can't help but say, yeah, see it. Cause it's fun and it's funny at times, but it is poorly thought out.
It's a beloved,
it is definitely poorly thought out.
I don't even know if it's necessarily poorly thought out, but it's just like they just didn't go far enough, or they just didn't think something completely through. Because I actually think the story works. It's just not very good. It's like it's very simple. Like, you know, I was telling Ryan, like, you know, John Wick, that first movie, I didn't like. I think it's a very simple, basic story. Like, yeah, I think it's fucking terrible. Like, I mean, it's okay. If you like action movies,
if you like headshots,
fantastic. But like, if you're going in for story, John Wick.
You're an FPS player.
yeah. And that's the thing. When we talked about John Wick 4, it's like okay, there's a lot of movies on this list where it's something that I've harped on quite a bit is, does the movie know what it is? John Wick 4 knows what it is. There's a reason why Infinity Pool hasn't been knocked off, because Infinity Pool is excellence. Nans, earmuffs. It's excellent. John Wick, it knows it's a John Wick movie. Creed knows it's a Creed movie. What was the one that I always harp on? Ant-Man. Ant-Man was not an Ant-Man movie. Magic Mike was not a Magic Mike movie. Those movies, or even Scream. Scream is the fucking the most egregious fucking asshole on this list so far, as Scream was not a Scream movie. It was a really bad Scream movie. A decent slasher, but a, in quotes, Scream movie, an Ant-Man movie, a Magic Mike movie. Those movies undermined their sole essence, right? Whereas this Mario movie, it didn't undermine its essence. It was still a Mario movie at the end of the day, even if
anything, the essence is what it got the best. Like, it got the essence the best, because it was definitely a Mario movie, like undoubtedly. Sure. Unlike a lot of other video game adaptations where you're like, this wasn't even freaking the thing from the video game.
Like Sonic the Hedgehog doesn't quite 100% feel like Sonic the Hedgehog. When you're playing Sonic the Hedgehog the game, it's sort of it, but it's like the second one does at least a little bit better of a job doing that. But this movie, I think, I agree with you. It's like, it's way more of a Mario movie.
As somebody says, Cocaine Bear was not a bear on coke. Plane was about a plane. No, that Plane was a movie about a plane. It was just a shit movie, and then Cocaine Bear was a movie about a bear on coke, but it was just a obnoxiously stupid movie. So,
Yeah.
so that's where those are the things I'm weighing. Whereas, okay, like the top 3 are pretty solid. Shazam and but okay, so like the threshold is really the top 5 right now are semi-complete, right? They like where when you get to Megan and Missing, that's where like third acts start to fall off, and then 8 to the bottom. Well, not 8 to the bottom, but like that's where they start to undermine their essence. And then Plane is just that, not PLANE, but PLAIN. It's just bleh. And Cocaine Bear is just obnoxiously terrible and stupid.
Pancakes.
I think SB might be right in saying that we'll have to debate between Scream and Mario, because SB, I kind of agree with you that like that I was saying like Ant-Man, it's above Ant-Man, I believe, but and it's in that same ballpark. But I do agree that like it's in the ballpark of Ant-Man and Scream, like it's somewhere in there, and I would probably say that might slightly be better than Scream, but I think the thing that Mario has the advantage of is that this is like the only second of a Mario movie, and this one actually like does a really good job of being that. But it's of course the script isn't quite as good as it needs to be. Whereas Scream, at least at the end of the day, could say, oh, well, it's still a slasher movie that's enjoyable, but it's a slasher movie where earmuffs, people don't. Certain characters don't die when you think that they should die, things like that. So
it's as I titled it, it's a weak Scream movie, but the weakness is that it's when you're judging it as a Scream, quote, finger quote, Scream movie, it's weak.
Yeah.
But then it's also weak because nobody dies. It's weak on multiple levels. So
for me, I think there's no question it should be below Missing, and I would say it should be below Ant-Man.
You think it's below Ant-Man?
I think that's the lowest it could go, would be below Ant-Man. My highest would be 5. The highest would be defeating Dungeons and Dragons.
Dungeons and Dragons?
Yeah, I don't think it's I honestly think the script for Dungeons is much better, and I think the story is way more inventive. I don't think it beats Dungeons.
I am annoyed by the final act of Dungeons, Megan, and Missing. The final act of all of those bugged the shit out of me.
As much as you're annoyed, the things that you describe to us that you're annoyed with is more of like the spectacle of, or the way those things play out. But I do think from the script standpoint, they all check the box as far as like they establish stuff in the beginning of the film. They kind of, they call back to it in the middle of the film. And then they kind of, there is some kind of twist or lesson learned in all 3 of those movies. So I do think I think it's better. I think it's probably above Scream 6. Like, it was right in the middle. It's I don't know. It's right in the middle someplace.
Well, like,
but I do think it's above
be like,
6.
my range is like 4 to 10. You're like, God damn it, Scott. Let me clarify real quick, just because I did make a note of this, because I did talk to you guys after the Dungeons episode, and I harped a lot on that final, like, please don't go. And I do. So Hulga, right? That was Michelle Rodriguez character.
Yeah.
And I, thinking back after digesting more after we were done, I was like, she didn't need to be in prison with him. There was no reason why. So the movie opens up with her in prison with Chris Pine. It's like, she doesn't need to be there. I actually would have loved it. And the ending would have made perfect sense, because the ending, remember, was Chris Pine deciding between his dead wife, who's he going to resurrect, his dead wife or Michelle Rodriguez. And the reason why he goes with Rodriguez is because, she's a friend of his, but also because his daughter is like, this is my real mom. I know my mom died when I was a baby, but this is my real mom. I wasn't feeling that. And I'm thinking on it more. I was like, I would have loved if, and you would have had to rewrite several things, whatever.
Yeah.
But if while he was in prison, Hulga, Michelle Rodriguez, was looking after his daughter, I would have been on board.
That would have made, I see what you're saying. That would have made the end of it a little more.
Yeah, and Hulga's like, you asshole, I've been looking after your daughter the whole time your dumbass was in prison because you wanted to steal shit, and you're an asshole, and she's basically my daughter now. And I know that messes things up with the baddie, the Hugh Grant character, but whatever. In the rewrite, you can figure that out. But overall, that would have hit. I would have loved that. So anyway, getting back to Mario, Mario does just have that kind of weak ending where Mario directly causes 9/11 in Brooklyn. Mario causes Bowser's attack on Brooklyn to the point where I'm like, if Mario never existed, Peach would have hooked up with the Donkey Kongs and they would have fought back against Bowser. Why do you need Mario in this movie? He doesn't add anything. His heroicism is stripped away because Peach can do it all, and she does. And Donkey Kong is a better fighter than him, even though they have a fight where he becomes a cat and he beats him. Whatever. Throw that out. That's stupid anyway. You don't need Mario in this movie. Mario makes everything worse. So that being the case, like I'm tempted to be like, all these movies are fucking better. But then I go, oh, it's fun, it's funny, it is good animation, it's bright color.
I had a better experience leaving this movie than I did Scream 6. I think Scream 6 has like it does have there are moments and then I'm like, oh, that was.
Is it because your kids enjoyed it?
No, I enjoyed it too, just as much because I was like, "Oh, this is
think
cool."
This
like, I'm
movie
actually seeing
should have been a
Mario
much
stuff in it.
smaller scope, or take this story and spread it over more movies and go into more detail. It's too little.
No, we lost
too
Charlie.
little plot butter spread over too much. Too much bread.
I don't think. I don't agree, Nans. I think I think the parts where
boring.
I feel like the.
Sorry,
I feel like
I try to go take a piss. I end up tricking McCurdy into thinking I'm gone. Now I have the button. Okay.
I was like, what?
Sorry, you missed a Lord of the Rings reference, but that's okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I would spread this movie out any more than it already is.
Are there plans to make more?
Oh, guaranteed.
Yeah.
No, I'm not saying spread it out more. I'm saying cut it up and go into more detail. Are
you saying like add a half an hour to the movie or make it over? Like,
I think they should have added if
multiple movies more depth.
I think they could have gone into
or
adding
smaller
half hour.
Yeah,
I think they could have added another half hour to the movie to just pad out some of these elements.
Yeah.
To make them make a little more sense or to clear some things up. And I also do think they needed to restructure what they were trying to say.
There's not enough there to chew on. It's just references for me.
Yeah.
But like 90 minutes of references and colors, and it's enjoyable.
I still think
it's not
overall enjoyed this more than these other movies that we had seen. That's why I was like, that's why when I initially thought about the ranking, I was like, probably above Ant-Man for me. I mean, and I'm saying that in more of regards to like, what movies do I feel like relate to them the most in the list and how I felt after watching them. I really like Ant-Man and the Wasp. Quantumania was very close in its like missteps as far as this movie goes, because I think that movie also has a lot of kind of weak plot issues, and it kind of does get really dumb by the end of the movie. But I do think Scream 6, on the other hand, also there's things where I'm like, yeah, this movie could have been a much better movie. So I do think it falls right in that realm right there for me. I don't think it's bad as Magic Mike and again, I actually like Magic. I mean, you and I liked Magic Mike: The Last Dance. Knock the Cabin has its issues, and then of course it's not Plane or Cocaine Bear. But like, yeah,
my problem is I would rather watch Plane, Knock at the Cabin, Ant-Man again more than I would want to watch this again. I did not really like this movie. It's bored,
and I'm there with you generally. I can't help but recommend it with the caveats we laid out, which is like. Yeah. Kids will like it as much as it's not.
I did not go to it with kids. I went with my wife.
You're a dink, borderline dinkwad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I in the theater going like, like this.
Charlie, would you put it Charlie, would you put it above or below Scream 6?
I gotta lean with Nans. I gotta lean towards this. This movie just isn't like I know, Nans, you said I'm a hypocrite asshole for recommending it. I recommended it with so many fucking caveats, but it just in general, it's not good. And my intro laid it out. It's like, go play Odyssey. I mean,
yeah,
Super Mario Odyssey is the same storyline, but you get to play some fun-ass gameplay, which is what Mario is about, which is probably why Nintendo always fought making a movie, because they're like, what fucking movie can you make out of this? Oh, we tried that, and it sucked ass. And then we tried again, and it's like this is a decent try, but it's, and I did appreciate that it was an origin story, but it's an origin story that completely undermines the character. It's like if Spider-Man was just useless. Like the original Sam Raimi Spider-Man is one of the best origin stories ever. And it's like if he directly caused all the trouble, right? Which in some ways he does, but more or less it's like all of his efforts are undermined by somebody else. It's like Mary Jane is already, oh no, I don't need you, Spider-Man. I'm already better than you at everything. And then the so on and so forth. It's like I'll keep going back to it. Everybody would be better off if Mario didn't exist. In this
would you say the same thing for Spider-Man No Way Home? Because like Peter Parker fucks that up like immensely by bringing all those other universes, bad guys, to his universe. So
isn't that
he'd be better if like he wasn't?
Though? Isn't that the point of that movie? Is that he's like, I fucked this up entirely. I'm sorry. I'm such.
I think the point of that movie is, hey, let's bring back all these other characters from these other Spider-Man movies you like. I feel like that's the point of that movie.
Yeah.
No, but I think Charlie's saying within the story,
one
there
for
is
one,
a consequence for the character.
Yeah. One for one would be the Spider-Man origin story. No Way Home is not an origin story. That's like the third movie of a series, and then on top of a bunch of other movies. But one for one would be the original Spider, like whatever origin story. Pick like Star Wars Episode 4, whatever origin story of your good guy, and compare that to this movie, which is Mario's origin story. And largely, everybody would have been better off if he didn't exist. He didn't really bring anything other than at the end, he touched an invincibility star that allowed him to punch the bad guy, which anybody could have done. I mean, can you imagine if Donkey Kong had touched that star?
Yeah.
I think fucking Toad. Fucking Toad could have touched the star and he would have kicked Bowser's ass,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
you keep talking about like, everyone would have been better off. I think the movie does foreshadow the idea that like he can fix things but then screws them up. Like it does that with the apartment thing. Like
if there would have been a broken pipe at the end. I'll fix the pipe, and Toad, you take the invisibility star and you kick Bowser's ass. I'll fix the toilet.
They needed that little, like they needed some. If they were going to use
maybe
the star,
a pipe
they
that goes
needed
to a
something
completely
to
different
get
world.
To the star.
It's like a sequel tease or something.
This movie
I have a
felt
question
like
for Kevra though.
Yeah.
Just as a little taste of your upcoming series on Zelda.
Yeah.
Do you would you say one movie for all the Zeldas, or is each Zelda its own movie? Or
they wouldn't even really like. Here's the thing. So I know actually someone just commented on one of my videos today that they wanted like one standalone movie and that was it. And I'm just like,
for everything?
There's so much.
Yeah,
and I'm just like, what? There's so much lore. Like, and you're gonna leave out so many other things from all the other Zelda games. Like, you're probably not gonna have Majora's Mask. You're probably not going to have the Twilight Realm. You're probably not going to have the Dark World. You're probably not going to have all these other things from all these other movies. It would just be another Hyrule, Ganondorf, Triforce, Master Sword like story, like with a bunch of like little Easter eggs here and there from like all these other games. And I'm like, no, you got to make it a franchise 100%. Even if you did like a series, like a 10-episode series or whatever, it still feels like you couldn't cram
that's
everything.
What I think would be more appropriate for the Mario movie is either like a smaller first movie if we know it's going to be a trilogy or a series, or maybe a TV series where it's more fleshed out, and I don't know, maybe it's I know Disney doesn't.
I don't think it needed
an origin story. This needed to just be a basic, call it color by number if you need, but just a basic origin story, and it's muddy. It is muddied down with all this bullshit, where again, even down to something like Mario and Luigi are really good. The Mario brothers, who the fucking movie is named after, are really good at working together at the beginning, regardless of a dog coming in and fucking everything up. They're really good at working together in the beginning, and then they're really good at working together at the end. And it's like nothing was learned. Nobody really progressed as a character. It's just like, and everything was great. And even, okay, let's talk about Bowser for a second. Bowser, who is just a typical, just looks, he's a childhood bad guy. He looks bad, and he's bad because he's bad. He just wants to dominate because he's bad. Jack Black, obviously a miracle. Jack Black is he oozes talent. Who doesn't love Jack Black? If you don't love him, fuck you. But overall, they turned Bowser into a sympathetic character to where I was rooting for fucking Bowser.
Yeah.
Bowser's like, I'm in love with Peach and I don't know why she wouldn't love me back. And I want happiness and I want to just live happily with Peach. And I was like, yeah, me too, dude. Like,
it's unclear why he's the bad guy. Cause he only says like,
why
I'm
does
gonna
she reject
take over
him?
the world.
Why does
after
she
she's
reject
like,
him?
Nah, I don't want to go on a date with
I
him.
mean, first off, I wouldn't want to fuck a turtle with spikes on his like. Back.
Why not?
Like,
Why not? She's got toads.
I mean-
She's got Toads or Donkey Kong. She should be fucking Donkey Kong or Bowser. That's all. Those are her options. Toads.
You know, as someone who like,
Donkey
I
Kong or
respect the
Bowser.
furry community, I'm not like a fan of it myself. Like, I'm not into that kind of thing. Like, I don't
Sure.
know. It seems weird to me. Like,
But
I
that's
don't
your
know.
only
He's
option.
still trying to take. He literally burned down the entire Ice Kingdom for that Power Star. Like, he's not
Yeah.
a good guy.
I
Like,
think
he
that's-
fucked those
that's
penguins.
the
So,
reason
like-
why I think she says no. She's like, yeah, you got some issues, and I'm
She
not really.
says
all
though,
about
she's
that.
like, no, you're a monster, and I'm like, you know, it's his whole thing. They really did turn him into this sympathetic character where he's like, I just want happiness, and I'm like, poor Bowser.
He
Now,
comes off as a creepy stalker.
Could
That's
they
what
well,
not
he
it
make
does.
him
He
seem
does when he
scary?
says, "I'm going to ritually
'Cause it's for
sacrifice
kids?
all your friends." That's when I'm like, okay, that's fair. Now he's a weirdo. But up until then, when she refuses, I'm like, why? It's no different than Rey refusing Ben Kylo Ren or whatever. Where I'm like, why? Why are you saying no? This is a good deal. This is
He
like
burned down another kingdom.
which kingdom?
The Ice Kingdom at the very beginning. It's the whole movie starts with him burning down a penguin kingdom.
Did he
and
destroy it?
kidnapping all of them?
Did he
destroyed
destroy it?
that kingdom?
Okay,
And then he
okay.
captured all of the inhabitants of that kingdom. Like,
But all
And
the
it's put
same,
in is
you think that he's like, oh, he's an okay guy.
then why
He's
not?
all right.
Then why not just have him be evil for the sake of evil? It's a kids movie, so why
it's not
have
as
him be
interesting.
funny and in love with Peach? That was more
I
for
don't
the
think it's as
adults to
interesting,
laugh
but
at.
it's the same reason why you have the cute little. Why have the cute little star character and he's like that shoots happiness when you know.
Yeah, but
they
that's
just say
minor.
really
That's
fucked up
minor compared to your primary bad guy. Is like, I'm in love with this girl, and why won't she love me? And I'm like, yeah, I can relate to that. I was rooting for Bowser. I was like, Bowser and Peach should, just like Rey and Kylo Ren, they should get together and rule the universe. Why not? Why the fuck not? Why the fuck not? Because this tiny little Italian guy shows up. Because you know, you got to either fuck Donkey Kong or Bowser, and I'm like, I'm for it. And Bowser, his motivation is, I want happiness. Okay, why are you? Who are you, man, to hold Bowser back from his happiness? You know, I was rooting for him by the end.
I mean, consent is like that's
Just 'cause
who's
he's Jack
kinda-
Black.
No, SP making this point about like they should have made him sympathetic by the third or fourth film. I think it's more or less that I think he's always had some weird like the movie is more writing into the fact that every game that he's usually in, it's like he captures Princess Peach for a weird reason, and it's
How did I
always
get on the
because he's
bottom?
like in love with Princess Peach, or like he has to, you know, for whatever reason. Because they even talk about that in what was the Sunshine, where like you know. Bowser
Mama.
Jr.'s like, that's my mom. And you're like, wait, what?
Yeah.
What's going on here? Like, in that Bowser, like that idea that Bowser has this weird fixation on Peach. Like, I felt like that's what the movie was writing to.
Yeah.
So, like, the fact that they made him sympathetic, I thought that was clever and funny way of like using that trope that was in the games for the movie. So yeah, I don't, and I also don't agree. Like, I mean, obviously, the way in which that he obtains these things are not something that I think that she would be like okay with. So I think she's like, yeah, I'm not going to be with Bowser.
I guess.
Yeah.
You know, like Charlie, if your girlfriend found out you were like, you know, if you had a girlfriend, you found out, you know, you were a murderer. I don't know if.
Do you know how
she'd be
many
cool with
murderers
that.
get pussy in jail and have chicks wanting to
Yeah,
marry them?
and you know
You know
how
what,
we
those
talk
chicks
about
have
this
problems.
all the time with
But
Bond.
you
That
know those
doesn't mean
chicks
it's
have
okay to
problems, though,
murder
right?
people.
We talk about this
Yeah.
all the time with
We're
Bond.
talking
Why
about
is he attractive? Why are
straight
bad
up,
men
like-
attractive? Why are bad men attractive? And again, like I said, when he says, I'm going to ritually sacrifice all your friends, I'm like, okay, now he's a weirdo. But up until then, I'm like, he went and got you a power star, bitch. Respetto.
This is a Zach Casey.
No.
This is a pro Bowser chat.
This is.
Oh
It's kind of like bringing someone like a severed head. Like, I got this for you. I love
Yeah.
them. Like, do you
Like,
not love them? too?
obviously, that's gross and weird. But he's like, bitch, you and I are gonna rule the world. And she's like, no. You know, I'm
As she
like,
should.
Okay. All right. You know,
I'll say I don't think that he should have even been in love with her for this film. Like I know that's like
That's
the
what I'm
stereotypical
saying.
trope, but I think it should have been like at the very end he sees her for the first time and he sees stars. Meanwhile, she just sees him as a monster kind of a situation.
Yes.
And that sets up for like a kidnapping later, or the Bowser Jr. situation of like, that's Mama.
But in the beginning, he should have just wanted to conquer things because he's a bad guy. You know, just a very simple motivation. I just want to conquer everything because I'm a bad guy. But they did it. They did it for the lulz, and it was funny because it's Jack Black. But that's my overall point is by making him a sympathetic character.
See, I don't think you made him sympathetic though. I think you made him creepy. Creepy as fuck.
Yeah, they made him creepy.
Sure.
Yeah,
he was stalker.
He was kind of creepy.
No, he was not sympathetic.
Well, I think it worked. I think that
was she into that?
I don't think
was she into that. Was she into that heroic stuff?
Like she should have friends.
I think that
funny
was not
for
an
the
element
adults,
of the movie
but
that was weak. I think that was one of the stronger elements of the movie, and I think it goes to show that when people are saying like, "Oh, Jack Black was my favorite character," because as I left the theater, I was like, "Yeah, I really liked Bowser," and not because I was sympathetic towards him, his plight, but more like I liked what they did with making him kind of creepy and really way too into Peach, where you know he's doing all these really terrible things, but I'm doing them for you.
Yeah.
Like I love that. I thought that was great.
Yeah, it's fun.
I will say that like I think that's one of the things that Mario had the issue with is they didn't keep pounding it over and over. Like they didn't go deep, like they didn't dive into it with Mario, like with all this stuff. They kind of skimmed over it of like, oh, this is why all you like the reasons you should feel sympathetic for him. Like I really feel like you should have felt him struggling over in Brooklyn as opposed to, you know, there's this bully named Spike.
We never got like the thing that like to really visualize his dream or what he actually wanted. Like we never got like, even though he's like, yeah, I'm going to be a plumber and I'm going to do this. Like we never like in a story like this, you would have had a moment where he would have been like, you know, either he visions himself as I want to be this great plumber. I want to envision myself with like this great girl. Like we never see that like vision that he has for himself in the beginning of the movie. So then when we get to the end of the movie, it's not really quite clear why he's like, yeah, I'm going to do the thing that I wanted, or like he realizes his vision is flawed or whatever. Like we never get any of that. So it's like again, I think the movie is just like, let me throw out some like elements that you would see in other movies. And like you had said, like, it's everything is where it should be, but they don't connect. They're not like those elements don't work in tandem with each other like they should in a movie. It's almost like this was taken from another script that someone else wrote. This is taken from another script that someone else wrote that had this idea for where the story was going. And then, oh, we got to figure out how to end this. Okay, let's kind of make it this. Like that's how the movie feels.
There
like
are
to me.
disparate
That's
elements all over the place. There are just disparate elements that, again, kids don't pick up on because kids are just like, this is fun and colorful and I'm not, they're never going to think that hard on it because they're so fluid that they just accept things as they come. Whereas again, for me, it's as simple as pick them there. Every scene, Mario's motivation changes. Pick a single motivation and stick with that throughout. And I'm going to be more satisfied. And that's, I mean, even down, to cap off on the Bowser thing, you know, just him wanting to run things is motivation enough. You can, as Kevra, you pointed out, it's like maybe at the end he's love struck for Peach briefly. That would have been better than him being love struck throughout. Just something where he just wants power for the sake of power. That's all you need for a kid's movie. But the disparate elements, they don't congeal into a singular satisfactory story. It's just a mishmash, just bleh of but visually, you know, it's like the redeeming qualities are the sense of humor and the color and the music and the fun stuff. That's why I say it's joyous on that level. It's joyous to watch as a Mario movie where it's like, finally, it's almost like when episode 7 came out. It was like a real Star Wars movie where it's real stuff and you can enjoy it. But then once the you know, the high came down, it was like, well, it's not that great. It's just kind of like a retread of A New Hope and all that. But at least it's a start. At least it's a start. At least it's better than that piece of shit they made in '93. It's something that we can sink our teeth into. And if this works out, maybe Nintendo will get better at it. And then maybe this was the safe one they did. And as they go on, maybe they can now do a Donkey Kong movie, and then they can do the Zelda movie, and that's what I more than anything want to rank this fucker, and then we can chat with Kevra about just like general thoughts on Nintendo going forward so far as these like if this is our new hope, and it's like, yeah, it's not that great of a movie, but it's decent, and maybe Nintendo now, because they made $1 billion, will have the balls to mix it up. Maybe this was their safe one, and they'll do better stuff down the road, would be my hope. So where are you guys at?
I mean, I'm still where I was at, as far as it's either between under missing, above Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania. And I could go as like, I still think my lowest is probably, and it's like, is it below or above Scream? That's where I'm at right now, because like it's a lot of the same elements that we're talking about, as far as
if it's those two, I'd
the
give
script,
it
does the script work? And that was one of the issues we had with Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Yeah, I'd give it.
You think it's below Scream?
I'm even tempted.
I could argue it would go even lower.
Yeah,
I'm between those two spots.
So I'm like, I'm kind of there with Nans. Where I'm like,
I'm thinking 10 or 11.
But you two in the video game room, Kevra, we know you're not up on all these movies, but like, between the two of you, I'm kind of with Nans. I would lean lower. I would lean lower than higher, generally.
Yeah, I think if it's lower for me, it's just below Ant-Man and the Wasp. But I really don't. I do feel like this movie has more to offer than Ant-Man and the Wasp does. So that's why I'm like, I think it's better than Ant-Man and the Wasp.
I just think of the ending of Ant-Man and the Wasp, where it was like, oh no, we'll never get home, and then that portal opens behind them, and I just remember that person in the theater was with me. They go, "What?" And it's the same thing as when they grab the Power Star, and it's just like,
it's like, for me, it's just really like, I don't think it goes lower than it doesn't. Yeah, for me, it wasn't as much as like it needs to go here. I just think, as far as where it's at, I think it's in the realm of like, Scream 6, Ant-Man and the Wasp. It's
I could give it fun factor.
One of those.
I could give it fun factor and go above Ant-Man.
Yeah, and like that's where I'm at. With Ant-Man and the Wasp, it's like it doesn't.
I had more fun.
It introduces a lot of weird stuff, but you're like not as attached to it. And at least this movie, it's like you're more engaged with all the cool, fun like things, and you're like, oh wait, that's from this game, and that's from this thing, and I remember this from this, and like I know like that's kind of very.
And that stuff's great. But it's
still a lot of fun, and
that's all for naught.
As lackluster as the end of Ant-Man is,
but even
to be honest, I don't even remember the end of Mario movie.
I forgot. I had to ask my brother-in-law. I was like, okay, wait. After
Charlie running through it, I was
after they beat Bowser, what happened?
Yeah, dude. Does everyone get sucked back into the Toad Kingdom or Mushroom Kingdom?
They live in the Mushroom Kingdom. Like
but specifically that I remember. But specifically, what happened?
There's like a montage of them getting up and getting ready or something like that. You think that they're like in Brooklyn, but then they open the door and they're in the Mushroom Kingdom.
Yeah, and they're living in the Mushroom Kingdom.
Mario and Luigi are in the Mushroom Kingdom?
Like, I don't even remember that.
And then the post credit. You guys didn't see the post credits.
I did.
Peaches,
peaches.
Well, there was a first one. Okay, that was the first one. There's a weird post credits like after the credits where, and it's only weird because like they show the Yoshi egg, because they showed it briefly in Brooklyn, but it's in the sewer system. So you're like, Yoshi's gonna be in the next movie,
or they're doing a Yoshi movie.
Yoshi, how is Yoshi gonna be at
like Yoshi's Island?
How are you gonna do?
Yeah,
I mean
they could do like a Yoshi
with
Island.
Like a weird baby Mario and a balloon.
Yoshi's Staten Island, motherfucker.
I mean, it could be a Bowser Jr. versus, because I mean, in the Yoshi Story game for the 64, it was baby
compared
Bowser
to Ant-Man and Quantumania. I was like, I don't even know what they're teasing. Like, it's like, okay, we got all these other I get it, there's other Kangs. This one, it's like, okay, well, we might see
I could give it again, if I'm going back to my
Number
argument
10.
of essence, right? The essence of an Ant-Man movie, the essence of Magic Mike, the essence of Ant-Man, the essence of Scream, they all fucked up their own essence, right? Like the Magic Mike, the essence of those movies is like fun striptease, and they thought they could get away with some artsy fartsy, but you got to get if anybody's got to stick up their ass, you got to give them a lap dance, and then they open their mind. It's like, shut up, you're stupid. Ant-Man and the Wasp sacrificed an Ant-Man movie for the sake of Kang the Conqueror.
Kang
and
was
then
cool.
Scream was enjoyable and still had those Scream elements, but it's the weakest so far as meta film commentary, which is the purpose of a Scream movie. And this just wanted to be a generic slasher.
You don't speak for the fans.
Yeah, exactly. You don't speak for the fans. Okay, well, nobody speaks for the fucking fans, asshole. That's not a thing. I speak for myself, and I have only ever spoken for myself.
You don't speak
Scream
for the trees?
6 is fucking, well, that's different. Scream 6 is a weak fucking Scream movie. So on those grounds,
is it weaker than Scream 5?
I think
Scream
Scream
5
5
is
Scream
fucking.
5.
I love Scream 5 compared
What?
to 6.
Yeah.
I love
Five's
it.
a better movie than 6.
Five-
I still
five
think
is-
5 is a better movie
Again,
than 6.
the whole essence of Scream is what's the first movie? It's commenting in a meta sense on slasher movies. What's the second one doing? A meta film commentary on the essence of slasher sequels. Then the third one is about trilogies. Is it a third installment, or is it the closing third installment that makes a trilogy? Those are two different concepts, and that means different rules. The fourth one is all about remakes. The fifth one is all about reboots. Those are all fucking great in that regard. And then Scream 6 is just a generic fucking slasher, and everybody's no. There was meta commentary. She said there was a whole scene where she said something like, all bets are off and anything can happen. And I go, yeah, great. That's so insightful. That is ingenious. That has so much to say about the 6th installment or blah, blah, blah. No, it's fucking weak. It's a fucking weak Scream movie. And I'm tempted at that point to say Mario's better because at least Mario is aware of what it is, even if it's weak as fuck.
I would see. Here's why I'm at with between that and Scream is that it's more about because you have harped on the meta commentary aspect of it. For me, Scream 6 doesn't. There's a lot of things where it's like, you could have had me, but you decided not to. Like you just went out of your way to be like, no, we're not going to kill those characters off. Well, we're going to make it look like we're going to kill them. We're make these scary moments, but no, there's no stakes here. Nobody like it doesn't matter. Everybody can live. It's fine. And that's where I'm like, yeah, that's kind of weak. And then I feel like it's in the same realm of weakness as Mario. I think Mario's weakness really is just like, again, like how all of the plot elements of his arcs,
they don't
how everything kind of comes full circle, and it doesn't, and it feels really weird how they try to make it full circle. And that's where I'm like, I'm on the border between that and Ant-Man, not so much it being below Ant-Man. And I think that's why I'm like, that's where I'm at.
Nico, we need you to in the Discord, you need to post a video that perfectly encapsulates tonight's discussion because that's what you're best at.
You're not a true Scream fan, Charlie. I understand the franchise.
He's
Charlie's going to put it
pro at posting Scream snippets that are highly relevant, like a GIF master, but video.
So right now, it really looks like we're looking as high as number 8, just below Missing.
Yeah.
And then as probably as the lowest I would say is 10. No, wait, let's say 10. Yeah, 10 below Ant-Man and the Wasp. I really am more leaning towards it's between Ant-Man and Scream 6, but I could also argue that maybe it's closer to above Scream 6.
Nans, are you still below Ant-Man?
Definitely below Scream.
Definitely below Scream. Okay.
Yeah.
I can live with that. Let's say below Scream. Let's say below Scream.
I would live with that too. Yeah.
Let's say below Scream. The only other option would be so now we're at above or below Ant-Man, and I'm gonna say above.
Yeah.
Just like knee jerk how this. I just think like again, you can tell in my intro that I'm like, the movie is joyous but empty. Who was it that Nance? Who said it? Was that Nico? Who was like pancakes? Who said that? Espy. Espy was like, it's pancakes without the syrup. Pancakes without syrup is like still delicious but dry, and you're like, fuck, I need that syrup. There's no goddamn syrup. Where Scream in its defense is still I guess like when it comes down to it, it is a more complete movie, even down to just it has a simple arc with the girls. I adore that moment of the let me go.
You're right.
I
That was
love
something
that
we did forget
moment
to
of let me go.
I forget to mention is that
this
Scream
movie's
6,
about brothers. That movie's about sisters, but they actually complete the sister arc.
But the sister
fucks
arc's
up
more
the whole
about
brother arc.
Yeah, the sister arc's more about like how two different sisters are going to like how they are processing the trauma from the last movie, and they do it in different ways, and like of course like they kind of come to an agreement on how they should kind of move forward. Whereas like this movie, it's all over the place. You're not 100% sure. So I agree.
Whole scene is
it's below Scream 6.
The whole scene is the older sister, who's always been very protective of the younger sister, is holding the younger sister over a balcony, and the younger sister looks up and says, "You need to let me go." And it's like the obvious, visual metaphor, as well as when she lets her go, she's dropping her on top of the killer. So it's like, take this knife and I'm going to drop you and you're going to stab him in the fucking face. And that's a moment where I think I said, what was it? I said before, I was like, Ant-Man and the Wasp needed that moment. It needed Scott Lang to be dangling his daughter over a precipice. And she's like, "Dad, let me go. You're always protecting me, but I'm old enough now to protect myself. Give me that fucking knife. Drop me down. I'm going to stab this dude in the face. I'm going to stab Kang in the face or whatever." Yeah. And they did that in Scream. And that was ultimately why Scream was better. And with this, the brothers are just not... There's for the Super Mario Brothers movie, there wasn't... That should have been the focus, and it wasn't the focus. And there's all these disparate elements, and it's all over the place. It's just none of it congealed into a singular, solitary, satisfactory story. And also, Mario, if he was never born, everybody would be happier. So, so I'm cool with number 9, below Scream, above Ant-Man and the Wasp. All agree.
I agree.
Agreed.
Okay, let's do it. Anyway, now that we've done that, I want to talk about Zelda. Okay, so it's the Super Mario Bros. movie, right? That's the title.
Yeah,
right?
that's the title.
Okay. Anyway, so yeah, Kevra, I think I missed. How many videos are out right now for Zelda?
Just the 2. So again, a week ago I posted the story, where I talked about the different stories, and then last Thursday I posted about the medium live action versus animation and television versus movies.
Okay. All right, real quick, just because we didn't even read it from the get-go, but our sacred list stands for those just listening. Infinity Pool, we'll see. We'll see what knocks off Infinity Pool. Yeah, Casey just said Oppenheimer. I would love it. I would love if Oppenheimer knocked it off. I hope that movie is great. Infinity Pool, John Wick Chapter 4, Creed 3, Shazam, Fury of the Gods, Dungeons and Dragons, Honor Among Thieves, Megan Missing, Scream 6, the Mario Brothers movie, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, Magic Mike's Last Dance, Knock at the Cabin, Plane, Cocaine Bear. I can't wait for that to be 50 long. It's going to be great. But all right, now that's all out of the way. So this, okay, fuck off, Nance. Get to the bottom.
Like, man,
this, I do hope this does well. This did well. The opening,
it already did well.
It'll make $1 billion. I hope it does. And maybe this is them playing it safe. And then from here, Nintendo finally feels like they can branch out and do more things. And the more, the merrier. It's like when Star Wars was bought by Disney, I was like, they'll do the same thing. They'll make a couple of shit movies, but then just like Ragnarok, they'll get bored and they'll start branching out and doing more creative things, and they'll have fun with it. And I hope that's the case.
Wait, did you mean Marvel? You said Star Wars, and then you were talking about Ragnarok with Marvel.
Well, when Star Wars was bought by Disney, and they played it safe, they just remade A New Hope. But then, Marvel, they kind of played it safe in the beginning, but then they start branching out. These franchises start branching out because somebody gets bored and somebody takes a chance, and that's all well and good. I'm hoping that at some point the same thing will occur with this if they keep it going, where whatever thing comes out where they don't play it safe, and they make the Diddy Kong movie, and it's a lot of fun. Diddy Kong's movie is legit. But when it comes to Zelda specifically, that's something that is obviously always going to be on everybody's radar. And it's like, I know you literally made all these videos about it, but is there like a 30-second pitch? Is there any kind of boiled down, just general?
No, he's like, no.
No,
Let me give you this.
There's cutaways into the pitch.
I'll give you this because this is something we lightly texted on. They obviously went with animated for this, probably because they had such a shitty time with live action before. But overall, with Zelda, live action or animated?
I mean, both, honestly. Like, that's the thing. It's like, I feel like, and I talked about this in my most recent video, is like, for so many Nintendo properties, animation fits so much more appropriately.
Yeah.
Because of the fact that all the characters are like creatures as opposed to real people. Like, when it comes to Zelda, you actually, or even like Metroid, but hell, Metroid, usually, it's a chicken in an armor suit fighting a bunch of like monsters and shit. But like Zelda, the Hylians and the humans, like, you can make an actual like real world thing based on those types of characters. It's more feasible as live action.
Yeah.
That being said, it's not like, Batman doesn't do both. It's not like, Star Wars doesn't do both. And I feel like The Legend of Zelda is the one big IP that Nintendo has where they have so much lore because they've done so many games. They have been doing this for so many years. Like, they even have like a Bible, the Hyrule Historia. I feel like they could do basically anything and everything under the sun. It's just a matter of making it so it's popular among the casual audience first. So you're trying to like get everybody on board with the fact that, there is a Zelda adaptation. It's kind of for everyone, as opposed to, some of the more niche stuff. Like, again, like the some of the Star Wars animated stuff. Usually it's more of the hardcore Star Wars fans that watch those as opposed to the casual people. And it's the same kind of thing for, if we did the, like, and I talk about this in the first video, like, if you want to do like the interloper story, if you want to do like the ancient war story, if you want to touch on like all these different things that happened in the Zelda games, but not have it be like this big, huge adaptation, this really expensive thing that doesn't even have like Link or Zelda or whatever, you can do like an anime film of that type of thing. So yeah.
And something that we messaged on lightly was, my brain goes in a circle, right? Where I go kind of like what I was saying about this movie too, where it's like, okay, we're going to do this animated movie and it's going to be awesome. It's got this great story. And then I go, okay, wait, then why not do that? But then just pocket it with gameplay and then just do a video game. Like, if you're going to do animated, why not just make it another video game? Whereas with this movie, this fucking Mario movie is Odyssey. But instead, because you have a generation of people who watch video games on Twitch. And for us, we go, why the fuck would you watch somebody else play video games? I do understand the market, because the obvious counter argument is, yeah, why would you watch somebody else play basketball? Why wouldn't you just go play it yourself? It's like, well, because I'm 200 pounds overweight and I just want to eat chicken wings while I watch somebody else do amazing things. But when it comes to video games, the whole point is solving puzzles and having fun as you're playing through a story.
Yeah.
But
then there's some people like McCurdy over here who aren't very good at video games, and they could get
Sure.
the Zelda story through like, Twitch or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to like throw McCurdy under the bus, but
I'm not good at video games.
No, do
he's
it.
Not,
I like playing video games. I'm not great at them.
Yeah. So there are some of those people.
But that's not something, but like, it doesn't matter. I mean, I get what you're saying, Charlie, but I think at the end of the day, it's like I think the fans would crave having a film version. Like, yes, I get you go home and you play the video game, but having like more, because I think the biggest challenge of any adaptation is trying to figure out what the story of that adaptation is and how it relates to the things that are in the game. And that's why I think Zelda makes it a really hard thing to adapt, because you're like, there are a lot of different versions of the story, and how do you adapt that? And the same with like Mario. And obviously they did they could have done better. And I think there was a lot of things that we already talked about that they're like, they had done these things, they probably would have had a much better movie on their hands.
Impact.
But
yeah,
they would have had a much better movie on their hands of all those things. But I do think seeing the movie in theaters, I'm like, yeah, there's a reason to have these movies, and even if they're video games, is because you're celebrating the games as a whole as watching it in the movie theater, and it's like something you still want to go see. It's like I want to see it just as much as if they made back in the 80s, you had Transformers toys and TV shows, like they made a Transformers movies. It's like you want to watch a movie version of the thing that you like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't think that's like, I get what you're saying as far as I'd rather play the game than maybe watch the movie, but at the end of the day, I'm like, I still want a Zelda movie. I still want a Mario movie.
Animated.
I want them to exist.
Yeah,
I want them
those
to
things.
happen.
Like I still
I
would
may
like
bitch
to
and
see
complain about them when they come about, but I do
Yeah.
want them to do it. And they were afraid to do it for years for obvious reasons that we've talked about. But at some point they will. And that's with something like Zelda, it's the main. If you were to take take Ocarina of Time and strip out all the gameplay elements, it's like what do you have at the end of the day? You have a guy going and grabbing a bunch of things so that he can do a thing, so that he can progress to a thing, and it's very meaningful to all of us because it like our old friend Gunnar used to say, we all shared a dream. We all played a game separately, but then we would get together at school, and it's like we all had a dream it's like I had a dream that I, went off and discovered a temple at the bottom of a lake. I did too, and this happened, and we all separately shared the same fantastical story. And
we all threw our controllers when we couldn't figure out that temple.
Well, he certainly fucking did. That guy broke more controllers than anybody. Me, and then I had control. I had self-control. He fucking didn't. But we would all kind of have these separate experiences, but we could all rally around them together. And as time goes on, and there's more, there's more options, right? There's more things diverting our like my nephew the whole time on vacation, he'd be playing like shitty cell phone games where I was like, like, dude, you should be playing Zelda. What the fuck are you doing? You're playing like Bejeweled? What is this shit? But it's these games have meaning, and what is the meaning? Can you take that meaning and can you apply it to a film structure as opposed to, does Ocarina of Time need a movie? I don't know. I don't know what it would take to do it justice versus just going and playing the game for the billionth time. And that's what Nintendo kind of faces. That's why Nintendo has kind of done well not doing any movies. And this movie kind of proves that they maybe they shouldn't do movies. But I'm like an agent of chaos. I want to see them make a ton, and I want to see them either fail or succeed. I want to see them make more rather than make less.
Yeah.
Yes, and improve and get better. But when it comes to Zelda, that's why I look forward to your video. I've for months, years, whatever it's been, I've looked forward to your videos, Kevra, and I'm always going to be in the fucking comments, just speaking my mind, because who isn't interested in seeing how they could do it? But at the end of the day, it has to transcend into the movie space, and this movie I just really felt like it didn't. I was like, especially because I was really surprised to see that Bowser wanted to get married to Peach, because I was like, what the fuck? They just did that with Odyssey, and I would rather just play
that's
Odyssey.
The whole thing of that's why he kidnaps her in the first place. He always is in love with her. Like, that's been a thing since like the very first game. Like,
is that though? Is that his motivation, or did he just kidnap her?
I assume that was always his motivation,
but it was never
just
explicit.
Always weird.
Correct?
It was always after Peach, man.
Yeah. I think even in like the anime, or the animation, like back in the 80s, like that was the thing. Yep. That's why he wanted to kidnap her. I could be wrong on that.
No, I think that is the same thing with that anime, is that he was in love with her. So, and I feel like that's more Japanese humor than anything else. Like, I don't know. There's sometimes when you see English translate, like when you watch anime, there's always kind of like a weirder, off the beaten path type of humor or way of thinking about the characters that I think Western audiences, we don't always like think the same ways about these characters. And I think like the fact that you have the villain who's like in love, like that to me doesn't necessarily read the same. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think it just comes off. Of course, they turn it into coming off as creepy in this movie. So.
There's got to be some awesome hentai with.
Oh, we had to go there.
Oh,
Oh man,
I guarantee.
But
that's how you adapt The Legend of Zelda.
Yeah,
Into an awesome
so.
hentai.
It's already been done.
Yeah. So okay, so then while we have Kevra in the room, what do you think the sequel is?
The sequel? I mean, here's the thing: is I don't even know if they go straight sequel or if they do like a Donkey Kong movie next with Mario in it, like or a Yoshi story. Because I mean, that egg referenced obviously Yoshi is coming, but is it going to be in a Super Mario Brothers 2? Like for me, this movie shouldn't even be called Super Mario Brothers. It should have been called Super Mario. Then maybe they do a Super Mario Brothers movie. Like they don't have to continue doing like a sequel. They can just do a bunch of different things within that universe, kind of a situation. Yeah. Because they've got all these different Mario characters.
But Mario could still pop up in those other movies, like
yeah. So, because people keep saying it's a cinematic Nintendo cinematic universe. It's going to lead to Smash. I'm like, I think it's really just a bunch of Mario stuff.
That they already did Smash. I mean, there were several Smash elements in this.
Well, the thing that I feel like the most Smash, like I think Smash Brothers doesn't really become a thing until you start introducing characters like Captain Falcon and Link and like characters that aren't normally Mario characters. Like, so like Donkey Kong is
references?
Just honestly, anytime like him fighting Donkey Kong, that was more Smash than anything. Him fighting Bowser.
I mean, it's original Donkey Kong though. That's like original Donkey Kong game.
No, but that would have been like
him throwing barrels. I mean, he does
that would have been
barrels,
what I
but
described
like
with like dropping barrels and him climbing up. That would have been more the original. But this was just two guys in an arena fighting each other. I was like, that's more Smash than just straight up Mario as is.
I think they would have made it an actual Smash arena if that was the idea.
They did.
Yeah,
they did. That was a Smash arena.
It was even on like the metal bars that were like from the original Donkey Kong game. Like it felt like original Donkey Kong.
Yeah,
but it was like Smash. That's a level that would be in Smash Bros.
No, I'm saying, is it literally in a Smash Bros? That location? If
yes,
not,
actually,
then I don't.
Didn't you tell me though that they're doing a Chris Pratt said something about them doing?
You know, I saw that, but it might have been like an April Fool's thing because he said something about like post credits. You might see Luigi's Mansion, or he might have just been joking around. I don't know.
I mean, I think a lot of obviously like SB even mentioned it, but or Nico also mentioned it. No, it was Nico mentioned it. It was like Wario, and I feel like Wario and Luigi feels like an obvious thing that they like are going to do at some point. It's just the question is like, how are they going to present those characters? Because there's not a lot of backstory to those characters other than like, yeah, there's Wario and Luigi, and they're like inverted evil versions of Mario and Luigi. So you're like, how are you going to do that? I could see them doing that just because like we've talked about how like the problem with the Mario universe is just every single game seems to be Bowser's the villain, kind of like how Superman in every Superman movie always fights Lex Luthor. It's like there are other villains that we could be mining here. But like I wonder
not for Mario.
Yeah, but it's like not for Mario. We gotta fight Bowser again. So it's like I think like if they want to do something just slightly different. I think
remember the Zelda universe legitimized that.
It's always
okay. So was it Skyward Sword where it's here's whatever his name is? Because Demise was like he legitimized the whole franchise by basically saying, I'm going to put a curse on you and me. So every time and it's something that is eternal, right? Is like even with Bond, we talk about how good versus evil is this eternal thing, right? It's just like it goes like this. And so Demise puts it specifically where he's like, I put a curse on you and me, and we're going to meet for eternity. We're going to clash forever. And that symbolizes chaos and order. Civilization is always going between chaos and order. And so that's where it's somewhat deep. And that's roughly where Mario and Bowser is just like the eternal battle between chaos and order and good and evil. And even like I'm still working on that video on Excalibur. And one of my favorite moments is King Arthur says, he's like, so Merlin, everything's great. We've defeated evil. And Merlin's like, no, you fucking idiot. Like chaos is waiting around the corner all the time. Everything's about to go to shit. Just when you think everything's great, it's about to go to shit. And that's just the way of the world. that's where Zelda kind of took that and owned it. It's like, okay, wait, we've had 17 million games. How do we legitimize this? It's like, Demise says it explicitly. He's like, you and I are doomed to fight each other forever, which is, and then take that over to Batman and the Joker. Joker says that. He's like, I think we're destined to do this forever, and that's him hinting at the eternal struggle of chaos and order, the immovable object, the unstoppable force, blah, blah, blah. And that's the fun part about it, is that it's like you and I are destined to fight each other forever. But within the Mario world, what else is there other than Bowser? What is there?
I mean, again, there's Wario, but he's only been the bad guy in one other game. And that's the other thing, is like all these other villains, they've just been like one and done. There is the I can't remember the villain from Super Mario RPG, but I know you fought alongside Bowser.
Super Mario Land. Wasn't there a different villain in Super Mario Land?
Super Mario. Oh, yeah.
Because that's
the
where
monkey
Princess
thing.
Daisy came from, right?
Yeah. So yeah, there was, and again, that was one and done. It was the alien monkey thing in the spaceship.
I want to see that.
Then Super Mario Land 2 was Wario.
But then there's like King Boo, which is like Luigi villain, Mansion. So they could do that.
Yeah.
They could do a King Boo movie.
Yeah. So I mean, there's little villains here and there, but again, they've just been in like one game and that's it.
Yeah, but I don't see that to be a reason of not doing like a Wario game, or why? Just because I think people like that character so much, and like, you have to have that character online to do well.
Yeah,
on Mario Kart. So.
But Wario's just always been like an anti-hero kind of a situation.
Yeah, but they could still like, I could see them easily being like, okay, we're gonna do a Wario as the villain movie, and then the next movie we'll do another movie that's a spin-off where Wario's actually a good guy or whatever. Like I could see them doing something like that.
And I want that. I just don't know if they do that.
Yeah. Real quick. I'm sitting here. I have a whole bunch of Evan. Nans wants to crawl in with his wife, Boo. Nans, we already ranked. If you want to peace out, you can peace out. McCurdy and Kevra, I leave it to you guys. If you want to keep just chit-chatting, I'm down. McCurdy
checking his watch. I don't think this episode needs to be more than 2.5 hours long.
Could we, Charlie, could we do this? Could we end this episode and then start a new one just called Talking with Kevra?
Or we keep going. I don't care.
Yeah, but then you have 2 videos. And then they'll be like, who's this Kevra guy?
So what?
So what, bro?
I don't care either way. So, yeah.
Let's just keep going.
With no what.
All right, we're still going.
I'm gonna bounce.
Yeah. Nans.
That's me and you, Nans.
A nacho.
To Shigeru Miyamoto.
Oh yeah, wait. Hold on,
yeah.
Let me pop that up. Hold on.
Mine's empty now.
Okay. All right. Hang on.
What is this?
I have to find the silliest photos of these people now.
Well, I want to see Charlie's face over that and Baskin Robbins on the TV.
Yeah. The man, the reason why we're all here, the mastermind behind both Mario, Zelda, Donkey Kong, everything. He's like Nintendo's pride and joy, his god. Yeah. So to Shigeru Miyamoto.
Still alive and kicking.
We're down. Okay.
Yeah, still kicking. But anyway, let's keep talking. Bonus content.
Bonus. All right. See
you, Nance.
Is there a leave button?
He said as he left.
That is the greatest thing I've heard.
That's gonna be a clip.
Is there a leave button?
Get the fuck out of here, goddamn nerds. Anyway, I'm down to keep chilling. I haven't been home in a week, so and I'm gonna be hungover as hell anyway. So, what do you guys want to talk about?
What are we gonna talk about?
I will say the one thing that I kept wanting to debate, like with the Mario movie, is like I do think it, and I told you this a little bit. I do think it kind of comes full circle. Like I don't think it's as disconnected. Like again, I don't think it just dives deep enough into it. Like I really wish that like we really would have seen Mario struggling, not just like, oh, he's been made fun of by his parents and Spike or whatever, because he clearly wants to be better than just the average Joe plumber. He wants to be more than just like that Ben Affleck in Good Will Hunting. He's like, he wants to be the fucking Good Will Hunting.
Yeah.
Like he wants to be someone special. I think that's very clear, which is why he starts his own business as opposed to being just a plumber. And by the end of it, he does get that. Like by the end of it, he saves the freaking world. Yeah, he did almost destroy it, but like I feel like that is the through line. That is like what like the goal, and also like saving his brother. But in saving his brother, like
but they go into that
guy.
house. They go into that house, and she's like, "My sink sucks," and they fix it right away. They're unlucky that her dog, the woman's dog, wants to kill them because they broke his bone, you know?
Which, by the way, I really wish, Charlie, that dog was the same kind of dog from Duck Hunt. Like, that would have been the perfect, that would have been the perfect,
of course,
Easter egg that they could have thrown in, and I would have been like, oh, that's like, and then they would have said, oh, we're leaving, we're going on a duck hunting trip. Like, I've been like, that would have been awesome.
Like just pack in as much shit as you can.
That would have been so good.
But I feel like, but instead it was like that was such a moment where I was like, okay, now we're in a Minions movie. Like now we're in
absolutely, especially that dog looked like the Life of Pets or whatever. Like
we're in a Life of
sequence,
Secret Life of Pets sequence.
But I did mention like this is just a minor thing, but if you look at the wallpaper, like it's not the wallpaper. If you look at the walls as they're walking up to the apartment, there's like all these paintings, right? One of the paintings is the same design that they would use on Super Mario Brothers 3 as like this weird diamond design that they use throughout that game. So I was always like, oh, there's another little reference there.
Yeah, and that's the thing. All that stuff is cherries on top if they nail the movie, and it's all the references are fun, but if the movie itself isn't really bringing it, and that's the sad thing, and that's why, again, for me, I once Nan said he wouldn't recommend it, I was like, okay, maybe I will, just so there's some balance, because I do think there should be some balance here where I don't want to come in saying I fucking hated it, because it really is a celebration of Mario. I just wish it was better, and that's where I think there should be some balance. Nan's coming in. I expected Nan's to be like, because typically Nan's is like, yeah, everything's awesome.
Yeah.
And then I come in and go, you fucking retard. Like this movie's
then the opposite happened with Infinity Pool, and he was like, I hate this movie. This was awful. I hated it.
So I was happy.
The best movie.
I was happy that Nans came in and said, don't see this movie. And I was like, good. Nans has some taste. He has some taste. That's great. So my counter is, we should be 50-50 on this, right? Like, I think McCurdy, you said you wouldn't. Kevra, you said you would. So it's like we're 50-50 on the recommendation.
I said I would. I said,
yeah, we're all torn.
I was like, go see it with you. If you have kids and you have a family, go see the movie.
Yeah, kids will love it.
And I would say go see it in theaters.
It also depends on how you're dissecting the movie, because like I said, like I don't like John Wick. I think it's got like a very too simple story, and the whole like the action of it like doesn't really like do anything for me. But like I know other people love it, and like I'm like, okay, because other people love it and because this story does work or whatever, like that's fine. It's just not for me. And for me, that's kind of how I view the Mario movie.
Yeah.
Where it's like it does work. Like I would change things. I would add a half hour and go deeper into moments and stuff like that. Maybe
it's 90 minutes on the dot.
Hold on. So we're still being interactive in this whole thing, even if we're hanging out. So what was our thoughts on the music? Because like I think a lot of critics have kind of been like poo-pooing the idea of any of these like needle drop moments in the movie. And I'm like, some of it works, some of it I think does. Like I think the one that people are like, that one doesn't really work, is the Take On Me moment when they're getting to Donkey Kong like island area. And I was like, yeah, that's the only one that like sticks out to me that I didn't like. The one I did like the Brooklyn one where it's like No Sleep Till Brooklyn. I like that, but
it felt a little bit weird, but it also fit so well where it's like, okay, that's fine. But
I honestly don't remember any needle drops. I just remember the video game music. And that's when I talk about the music, that's what I mean, where just having a big celebration for Mario is cool, but it is undermined by not having this complete story. So it's like this big celebration. Like I wish this was like 100% across the board. You've got all this celebratory, all the references and the music. And when I say music, I mean Mario music. You have all this stuff, and you have this satisfactory story. But you have all that stuff without a satisfactory story, to where, again, kids like the on the way back from Georgia, I was talking to my brother-in-law about it, and I was like, okay, dude, let's have it out. I'm getting my thoughts together for tonight, and it's not a very good movie. And he was like, yeah, I know, right? And I was like, yeah, I didn't. I was like, I didn't want to poo-poo it in front of your son, my nephew, but and my nephew from the back seat was like, why do you guys keep talking about Mario? Why do you keep talking about it? And finally, my brother-in-law was like, because the movie sucked. And my nephew's like, what are you talking about? It was so good. And I was like, yeah, dude, I wasn't going to say that. I wasn't going to poo-poo it because he, he doesn't know any better. Kids take movies as they are. They have it's only after you've watched thousands of movies that you start to formulate, or like you read thousands of books. That's the only time you start to formulate opinions, because you've traversed so many trails that you start to think, what if things were different? What would I have done different? What could have made it better? But when you've only seen 100 movies, you just take things as they are. You don't know any better. That's why that's the essence of critique, is just like having experienced a million things to the point where you go, what if you changed this detail? What if you made a different decision there? And that's where, for me, I just I'm in love with the idea of Cranky Kong training Mario instead of Peach, because it's like if Leia trained Luke, you're like, well, then why do you need Luke? Why doesn't Leia just go off and do it?
Just go and do it.
Yeah. So I'll need you to clarify a little bit more on that, because it almost sounds like you're saying like kids will like anything, almost like.
Kind of, maybe not. I mean, they won't like staring at dog shit for 2 hours.
Well, because I mean, it sounds like you're like, well, it's a kids movie, so of course kids are gonna love it. I'm just like,
okay,
I feel like
I haven't been to a kids. Let me just say it this way: I've now been to a kids movie with my daughter that she didn't like, and like even movies that I was like, because my daughter has watched some like pretty dumb stuff on Netflix. Like, she'll go to Netflix first, and I'm always just like, oh, can we not go to Netflix? I'd rather you watch something on Disney, or because for me, I know. If you're just going to watch a Pixar movie or a Disney movie, those movies, I'm not saying they're vetted, but there's definitely a different caliber of the storytelling and the making of those movies that at least they're much better. They're much better movies.
Yeah.
Whereas it's like, I have no idea if Netflix or movies on Netflix or Paramount or whatever, if they're like
made specifically for kids or
made
everybody.
well. It's not just that, but it's like, are they made well? Like, cause there's like some stuff that I watched Marcy watch where I'm like, this is not good. Like, it's just not. It's not well. It's not well told. It looks like crap, and I'm just like, this is dumb. Like, Nico's talking about like the Emoji Movie. Like, like kids are gonna watch that and be like, oh, fun, fart jokes, poo poo jokes. But like, was there a point to that movie? Was there something?
I remember asking a kid, what's your favorite part? What was your favorite part of Shrek? And this kid said, oh, I loved when Donkey peed on the fire. That's it. There's a moment where they camp and they move on in the morning, and Donkey pees on the fire to put it out so they can continue. It's during the, I think it's during the Woodwalk 5 or whatever. I think it was that song as they're journeying, and it's like, okay, that's all you picked up on, and that's not to say that kids will love anything, right? But a movie like this, of course they're gonna love it because it has all that fun action and Mario elements, but they don't really think about how all those elements congeal. Whereas we're here to be like, they don't really congeal.
But it's funny you say the reverse. Like, there is a reverse of that though, because like I watched, because again, my daughter, she loves Frozen when Frozen came out. So, and during the pandemic, they had like this making of Frozen 2, the sequel. And it was really interesting to watch. I think I would suggest watching it just for like understanding how animation works. Because a lot of times they don't just write a script and make the movie. They'll like write a script or have a vague idea what the story is and start working on the animatics, but then they'll start changing that story as they're making the movie. It's not the same as, in live action, you're like, you write the movie and then you start making the movie, and then they might have to make changes on the day for like locations or something comes up and they have to change it. They don't have the budget, but like they're like, when they do an animated movie, they might go through and they'll be like, oh, we're going to cut this whole sequence out and we're not going to animate this and we're going to redo this and we're going to like completely, they might change the movie multiple times while they're writing it and making it at the same time.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting watching the behind the scenes of Frozen 2. My point though was that in Frozen 2, you see the opposite where they went a little too hard on the story. I don't really think Frozen 2's story's great, but like they went too hard on trying to fix the story elements that they realized that by the time they showed it to kids audiences, like the kids were not really into it. And they're like, we got to still, like, you got to have our bottom line. Like kids still have to enjoy this movie. So they ended up making more Olaf scenes to make that movie more fun for kids to watch because they realized as they went through it, they're like, oh, wow, we screwed up. We made an adult animated film. We didn't make a family animated film.
Well, I brought up.
I think like this movie does that. Like Mario does that. They made an animated adult. They made an animated kids film for families, but of course the story stuff they didn't. You know.
And to be fair, I feel like that's almost like a really hard balance to strike because I feel like if you're making like an adult movie, like versus a kids movie, like if you do one or the other, I feel like that'd be easier to do than try to please both of those.
Yeah.
So
I brought up when we talked about Dungeons and Dragons last week, I brought up Onward, which Onward for me, the first time I watched Onward, which is a Pixar movie about two brothers going off on a Dungeons and Dragons-esque quest. I remember watching that and my first thought being, you know, that's a great movie. I know some of the creatives behind it are shared with Frozen 2, but my thought initially was like Andrew Stanton, I think. I don't know. You can name drop a bunch of Pixar people and they'd be in it.
Yeah.
But I remember thinking, it's as if, in my own headcanon, it's as if Pixar watched Frozen and Frozen 2 and said, fuck this stupid ass shit. We can do better. And they made Onward. And then Onward had those elements of where Dungeons and Dragons, by the end of it, it's like, no, don't kill my new mom. I love her so much. She means so much to me. And I was like, bitch, what? What are you talking about? Since when? But with Onward, it was all organic. The whole thing was you have the main character who's obsessed with resurrecting his dad, just like Chris Pine is obsessed with resurrecting his wife. Yeah. And then by the end, it's like, no, he has to learn to let go. Well, in Onward, he's obsessed with resurrecting his dad. They resurrect half of him. And then it's him and his brother, coincidentally, Chris Pratt, working together, Spider-Man and Chris Pratt, working together to resurrect their full dad. But then by the end of the journey, he realizes, you know what? My brother has actually been my father the whole time. And that all works. Like Onward is fucking awesome. Above Dungeons and Dragons and above Frozen, y'all should watch Onward. That movie has meaning. That movie gives you the feels. Whereas I have a lot of problems that not worth going into on Frozen. I've gone into them briefly on the Bond movies, but Frozen.
I don't think we've ever mentioned the Frozen movies.
Frozen, I mentioned, I think in the The World's Not Enough episode about how I fucking hate Frozen 1. Frozen 2 is kind of different. Frozen 1 fucking sucks. A massive dick. But that's not worth going into. But I kind of hinted at my thoughts on it, and I may make my own video on that in the future. But Onward is those movies, but done well. And then it actually plugs into Dungeons and Dragons as I laid out. But yeah. But overall, with Mario, it's like hints of we could have gone this direction. We could have had it be the brothers movie, just like Onward, or it could have been the princess movie, Save the Princess movie. It could have done that, but it's just kind of like disparate elements, this mishmash of a whole bunch of stuff that never really lands on anything. That's them being safe.
Yeah, but when we were talking about watching that behind the scenes on how they did Frozen 2 and like how they developed that story, I could easily have seen them getting to a point where they didn't want to fix any more stuff and they were getting too close to the end. And so they were like, this is the movie. And like, we're locking us down here. Cause I could have easily seen them being like, oh no, they could have been like, oh no, because they're still fixing the story and still just getting the voices and still doing the early animation stuff. So they could have easily been like, no, like
getting rid of this element, changing it to this, because it's much more of a just like the writing of like an animated film is so different just in general from writing a script, because you don't just like write the script. It's like you're writing the script and making the movie in like pictures at the same time. Like you're doing it all at the same time because it's a visual thing, and you're animating it, and it takes longer. So it all kind of has to happen at the same time.
Yeah. Well, you don't have to gather everybody else like together at the same time for reshoots, so you don't have to have like organize like all these changes we're gonna do. We have to do it in this block of time, kind of a situation.
So then they'll bring like the voice actor and be like, okay, you're voicing these lines today. We changed those lines that we had you originally do. And,
you can be more agile with it.
Yeah. So it just kind of goes all over the place. It's just different.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm really curious again, like, because I don't know, like, if Miyamoto was kind of the one where, like, I'm like, man, I wish he was more hands off. If if he requested we had to do Rainbow Road, like, to me, all of the kart stuff, like, even though I enjoyed it, I'm like, this shouldn't be here. Like,
sure, yeah.
Why is it whenever we go to the Donkey Kong Country, they're all about karts? And like that, we gotta, this quick path that you just jump off this ramp, and then we're gonna.
That was when I felt the movie felt like a kid started writing the movie. Like that was the moment where I was like, that was like, I liked the Mario Kart stuff. I thought the way it, like everything that happened during the Mario Kart stuff, I thought was cool, and it was a lot like Mad Max. But it just felt very like inorganic. Like it just felt like it was jammed into the story when it didn't really make a lot of sense. And I was like, all right.
Well, there was that one moment where I thought that was kind of poorly. It stuck out as a moment where I was like, that was kind of poorly handled. Was they're doing their fun Mario Kart stuff, and you have all the baddies chasing them, and the whole time one of the Koopas is wearing a helmet that's a blue shell, and once he's defeated, once his machine is kind of broken down, he stands up and he just goes, blue shell.
That was a weird moment.
And
I know that people loved it.
Blue shell, or did he say you can't
activate blue shell?
Or you can't. He said something like, "You can't stop me. I'm blue shell." And I remember being like, "Okay, anybody who isn't aware of Mario would just like they would maybe be like, yeah, whatever. He just turned into a shell and then he went and bombed them." But anybody who's aware of Mario is like, why did you have to yell blue shell? That was kind of awkward and dumb. That was one of those moments where it's like, I'm yelling reference, and I was like, you could have just done it, and then the people in the know would go, that's a blue shell thing. That's kind of really clever. But by yelling it, it's like you're telling the joke, you're explaining the joke as it's happening, and that bugged the shit out of me.
So one thing that I thought was weird, like this is the poster. Like I remember looking at the poster for this movie, and I'm like, who's this winged blue shell character? And then like after I saw the movie, I was like, oh, I see. Like they were trying to make him, but I was like, that's a weird character to put in the poster. And then after watching it, I was like, oh, because I had no idea. It did not dawn on me until like the last second. I was like, oh, he's supposed to be the blue shell from the Mario games. Okay, that makes sense. Like,
and why did it have to be him turning into a blue shell rather than them just pulling out like release like Grond in Lord of the Rings, like Grond, like release the blue shell, the sacred blue shell, and then release the blue shell, and then those in the know are like, oh, the blue shell goes to the person in the lead and destroys them, and then people who don't know, they're like, oh, this must be a super secret element, But the point being that him standing up and going, I'll get you, I'm a blue shell. It's like, that was like again, that's like a kid wrote it.
Yeah, that was very, SB said that was the dude from Super Mario World. I didn't know that. That's a game I never played. I played the first 3 games. I never played, I probably dabbled in Super Mario 64 when it came out. And then I remember because I remember when.
Who is that in Super Mario World? I know.
I don't remember the blue shell.
This was within the context of Mario Kart, which we all know the blue shell is typically given to somebody towards the last place, and you send it forward and it's going to hit the person in first, and that's what they did. And then that sent Mario and Donkey Kong to the watery abyss where they talk about their daddy issues. But
which again, that could have been a bigger, better moment had they just delved into it more with like the Cranky Con stuff, or like with his dad like really harking on him and everything. Like they just had stuff there that could have worked. They just didn't really run with it. They were just like, well, it's a kid's movie, so we're just gonna hey, this is why you're supposed to feel emotion. Moving along now.
Yeah.
But I will say it was the movie that I kind of thought it was going to be, though. I told him a long time ago. I made that first video about the Super Mario Brothers like trailer. And I was
where the trailer was good.
The trailer, yeah, I thought the trailers were good. But when I saw the second one, when they showed the Rainbow Road thing, I was just like, I feel like this might just be a movie with a bunch of references. I feel like this might just be like, hey, you remember this thing from the game? But everyone was enjoying the trailer so much, I didn't want to shit on it and be like, hey, guys, this could be awful because it could be just a reference palooza. And that's kind of what it was. But people seem to still enjoy that. Like, just like they really enjoyed the trailer. So it's like...
They do for now.
I don't know.
They do when they come out of the theater and they're all high on it. And then later they're like, yeah, I guess it wasn't that great, was it? But in the beginning, again, I can't say a bad word about it because I love Mario. And I'm like, no, just give in to your feelings.
I think SB said it best, was like the other video game movie that came out literally this time last year was Sonic 2. I think it was like the same weekend. Sonic 2 came out. And I do think Sonic 2 was a better movie overall than this one. Not as many references. Sonic 2, the Sonic 2 has the unfortunate, like, there's like the story derails for some other B plot for a little bit and then comes back to the main story. But other than that, that movie feels more of a cohesive movie than this one does. But yeah, but I still really like the references, and I will probably watch this again when it comes out on video and stuff like that. So
I will definitely watch it again.
I'm not like, oh, I hated this, is so bad, I'm never gonna watch. I will probably watch this a bunch with my kids when it comes out on video.
Like I said, if Nans had come in,
no, I won't mind it.
If Nans had come in being like, yeah, I recommend it, I would have been like, don't see it. But I really do think there needs to be balance of 50-50 of see it and don't see it, because but I spoke my piece where I'm like, you should see it to celebrate Mario with children, but also consider the option of just staying home and playing Odyssey. Like, that's where I'm at.
Yeah.
Well, I think this is where I think Kevin was like, it's not really Odyssey. Like the whole marriage thing is Odyssey, but like there's way more in that game that's like the hats and all that stuff. And
yeah,
like,
and that's all great. Again,
there's
it's all about imagination and gameplay versus.
You know, I will say, I think
story.
Odyssey is greatest Mario game. I completely agree with you on that. But you're like, it's just Odyssey. I'm like, it's not. I mean, aside from the marriage scene, like that's about it.
And like maybe some references,
but
and
it's still the like
pyramids.
Gotta save Peach from getting married to Bowser. That's like,
I mean, that's basically
every other games too. So
you just don't have the wedding scene, but it's still like
yeah.
It's like Paper Mario. Like Paper Mario, he's all like, you're gonna be my bride, but he doesn't dress up in the groom outfit. They don't ever have like a wedding day kind of a thing.
Yeah.
But he's like, I'm gonna get you to love me, and it's like, no, you're not.
But all the same, my main sentiment is I'd rather just play any of those games than watch this movie.
I will say though, I did start playing Super Mario World because I never played that game. So I was like, I'm gonna play this.
That was my first.
I never, because I had a Sega. The first video game I had was an NES, so I played Super Mario Brothers, Super Mario Brothers 2, and Super Mario Brothers 3 on the NES before I started playing. I didn't play, and I skipped Super Nintendo, so I never played those games. So it's a little different, but
yeah, Super Mario World was my first, and I raged on that shit, and that was my intro, and that was my falling in love with Nintendo. I used to go over to a friend's house when I was like 3 years old and beat all his games for him.
Yeah, SB, I started playing because of the Switch now. Like if you have the virtual console, like you can play all the NES, not all of the NES games, but the popular ones and the popular Super Nintendo games as well. So it's just so weird to me because like as a kid, I remember like you would have to go to someone's house to play certain games because you're like, oh, my parents didn't buy me this one or that one. But now it's like, as an adult, I'm like, oh, I can just play like all these games for like nothing. Like,
I probably told this story in the past, but I had a friend growing up who was, speaking of Twitch, right, and watching other people play games. He was really bad, but his whole thing was his parents got a divorce, and so they felt so bad that they bought him whatever he wanted. right? So he had every video game, anything he wanted. Whereas me, I'd have to do so much housework. I have to mow like 10 lawns. I have to mow 10 lawns to buy a video game, right? And so he would call me and he'd say, "Hey, I just got Grand Theft Auto, Vice City. I just got Devil May Cry 2. I just got whatever hot game of the minute. I need you to come over and beat it for me." I'd be like,
I will be right there.
Like that was always the case. He had every game, but he was terrible at them, and he loved watching me beat his games. It was like nowadays he'd be like, "I need you to come over and fuck my wife. Like I need you to cuck me. I can't get her off." So it was like the perfect symbiotic relationship. I'd go over there and I would play his video games. And so even though I didn't have them myself, but that was like heavenly. But yeah, nowadays there's so many games that come out that it's hard to keep up with them, right?
Yeah.
So and the same with movies, so but all this is to say this is just the start. This is just like this is the Iron Man of Nintendo. It's not no. Better analogy is this is like Man of Steel, where it's very divisive. It's very much 50-50. It's not that great, but at least it's a start. And hopefully they do better. Hopefully they can make some good movies. But if they keep up with this, like I said about Dungeons and Dragons, where there's kind of a nihilistic malaise to it, where we can't really let our heroes be heroic, then I'm not going to be on board. I'm just going to think that they're bad. But if they can make it fun, I really hope they do. I hope they bring in Wario, who when I play any game with my nieces and nephews, they know Uncle Charlie is Wario. I'm always going to be Wario. So I hope Wario comes in. I hope, they bring in a Yoshi and all these fun elements. And I hope they do a good job with it. But they played it safe. They played it too safe on this one. It's not the best movie, but it is still a Mario celebration, blah, blah, blah. And it's kind of fun. And it's kind of funny. And so I half recommend it. But do you guys I mean, I'm ready to sign off, but if you have anything more to say.
I'm trying to figure out, I'm trying to find our list for the for what we're watching next week. And I think I do know what it is. Next week is Renfield. Renfield comes out next week.
Yeah, that is on
so we'll
the
see
schedule.
That's on the schedule now, because I think it was Espy or somebody mentioned Nico I think mentioned something like, "Oh, when we see Bo is this." I think it's the Ari Aster movie, and then there's also the new Wes Anderson movie coming out later this year. It's like they're not on the list because one, I didn't see the trailer yet, but they're also like, it sucks because some of these weeks when the movies are coming out, like, yeah, and I get what we were talking about earlier was like, yeah, but we haven't seen a movie. Like, just like not a franchise thing. And it's like, well, it's hard because almost every week there's a big franchise movie, and like people are going to go see those versus going to see, like, depending on what it is, but you know what I mean? So
yeah,
it'll
be, we're always open to anybody's, again, if somebody comes through and says Air is actually awesome, I would love to go see Air.
I might go see that.
Team up Matt Damon and Ben Affleck again, like
I might try to go see that tomorrow if I can, or try to see it maybe on Tuesday. We'll see, because I don't work those 2 days, so I might try to just go see like a late showing and see those, but we'll see.
Yeah, and the goal is that by the end we have a list that is 50 strong, and if we add to that,
it would be 52.
Well, that's saying maybe there's 2 weeks vacation as standard per the HMO. I don't know acronyms, but you know what I'm saying. 50 over the year. Maybe there's some weeks we don't, or maybe we extend it and we do multiples where it's like 60 or more. I don't care, but we just want to have that full list by the end, and we can do whatever we want. We can add, like I said, you McCurdy, you want to do mostly theatricals. If a movie like 13 Lives comes out, I'm going to be like, stop the presses. Everybody get an Amazon account and we'll watch that, whatever it may be. So we're always open to recommendations and all that shit. But as of now, we're at 14. we're coming upon 3 hours, gentlemen. I could go for another hour. I'm assuming you two don't, but that's because that's
I need
me,
to go to bed. I got to
'cause
get
I'm
up early.
crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, his
so,
wife's texting him. So.
Kevra, you
Yep.
have any final thoughts on this movie, or did you get all the feels
I mean,
out?
I feel like I've pretty much said it. It's pretty much, you know, like I still kind of enjoyed it, but at the same time, like it's one of those movies where I feel like even though the story wasn't there, what is there a lot of people do like. Because again, I do see people saying like, I'm seeing it for a 4th time. This is freaking like awesome. I can't stop smiling watching this movie. Like, and I'm like,
okay,
I can't relate to that, but like, hey,
Yeah.
if you want to, if it makes you happy, if like all these references, like it's just like, again, I think the Expendables movies are fucking terrible. This story is so bad. Like, it's not just like a simple story. It's like, you met that girl for 2 seconds and now you're going to like go back and like try to rescue her for what fucking reason? Like, no, this makes no fucking sense. Like, or a Zack Snyder fan. If you love Zack Snyder movies, despite the fact that they make no fucking sense, like, good for you. You like this, but you like those big spectacle moments. I'll admit, he does like a lot of cool stuff visually. If you love the language of like his storytelling and all that kind of stuff, good for you. But yeah, if you're looking for a good story, I would not recommend Mario. If you're looking for a good time with Mario, this is, I mean, you might have it as long as you, you know, don't care about the story too much.
It's kind of like what we said about, I was, you know, for certain of these movies, we're like, hey, if you get away, Blue, if you already are a D&D fan, you're going to see it. If you're a Scream fan, you're going to see it, but just be forewarned that it's just not like Ant-Man. Like, if you're an Ant-Man fan, you're going to be disappointed, you know? So, it's with those caveats in mind, that's where for me I'm at a 50-50. That's where I'm like, go with a kid, because a kid is going to be laughing and having fun. And I was in a theater full of kids, and all the kids were screaming and having a good time, and I was sitting there being like, yeah, just if you were a cynical fucking asshole like me, you'd be sitting there being like, this isn't the best thing. But overall,
I kind of had the opposite experience for you, because I saw it at like a 10 o'clock show with no kids, and I kind of intentionally did that because I was like, oh, they're gonna be less noisy and like chatting like, oh yeah, this is Queen, like all that kind of stuff.
There was one kid who just it was weird. It was like he thought he was an echo, and every last word of every sentence he would yell. So be like, hey, you know, could you hand me that sandwich? He'd be like, sandwich! And I was like, whose kid is that? Shut him the fuck up. But it was really weird. But but overall, that's where it's like, it's one of these movies where I'm obviously torn. I'm like, don't go see it with a kid. Go see it where you're part of the celebration. Go see it where you are part of the celebration. Otherwise, stay home and play Odyssey. And I'm going to leave it. But before I repeat myself for the millionth time,
like, you know, I don't know why you want to play. I mean, I need to play that game again, but still, like, I'm like, well, I've already beaten Odyssey. There's a new Mario Brothers movie you haven't seen yet. Go see that. You know, if you already beaten Odyssey.
Yeah. So, McCurdy, you have any more feels to get out?
No, not really.
All right.
I think we said everything. I'm ready to go to bed.
Let's just reenact.
Hey,
let's
paisanos!
just give one more. Well, yeah, real quick. Just for the last time, if you want to plug any of your shit, Mr. Kevra, we know you have your videos coming out.
Do you need to put your link? We need to put the links to his videos on the bottom here so people can check out. If you can do that afterwards or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you send me? Can you just like text me some and I'll just paste them, because I'm gonna do all the stuff I normally do. Again, I didn't have dinner, so I'm gonna go die. But send me stuff and I'll put it in this video description, and then I'll duplicate it tomorrow as I normally do.
All right, yeah. Then I'll just do that.
Yeah. But what do you got? Plug your shit.
Okay, so yeah, I got 2 channels again. The first one I launched about a year and a half ago, based on Mario Party Superstars and wanting DLC because of that game having all legacy content, and they didn't have enough legacy content for it. But it also has me talking about Nintendo Directs. I talk about Tears of the Kingdom a couple of times, just Nintendo stuff in general. But my most recent channel, which is kind of why I'm here, is that one's just called Kevra. I got a series about how to adapt The Legend of Zelda. I want to do other ones eventually, like Earthbound, and I might even do like Mario, but like Mario felt like a little bit too. Like I wanted to wait till the movie came out because I don't want to say this is how you should do it, and then they just
Yeah,
is completely different. So I might do Mario eventually, talking about where they might go in the future and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, right now the focus is how to adapt The Legend of Zelda, going over like the stories, live action versus animation and TV versus movies, and then all of the things that like would translate. The third video is going to be about like the things you can't do, like that are in video games, like chasing a shit ton of MacGuffins. You can't really do that because it's boring ass storytelling. If you're just doing a wash, rinse, repeat of like, gotta go get this one, and then this one, and then this one, and then this one. So yeah, if you're remotely interested in that topic, go find me. You can either find one of the links that Charlie's gonna post, or you can just type in how to adapt The Legend of Zelda Kevra.
Sounds good. All right. Well, yeah. As usual, I could go another 3 hours. I think this is our longest one, unnecessarily longest live stream we've done so far as 2023 goes. But let's just recreate a toast for Shigeru Miyamoto, because he is the man, the myth, the legend, Nintendo's pride and joy. McCurdy, do you have where's Mr. Shigeru Miyamoto? All right,
I mean,
there he is.
Did. I'm out of beer, bro.
I'm also
we're out.
No, you got drops. You got drops. Throw up a drop. Throw up a drop.
All right, here's a drop.
All right, to the man, the myth, the legend. Thank you for birthing all of this IP. Cheers. Good night, gents.